Chapter 1162. Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish returned to Gentian's side with sunken faces. Their faces were rather pale. Although they were protected by origin energy armor, the skeleton was just too powerful, so they were still slightly injured. This skeleton's strength has already surpassed the Holy Emperor's level. The three of us can't stop it. If we fight it for too long, we'll still end up heavily injured, even with our origin energy treasures, Ruijin said with a heavy voice. Ruijin's words reached the ears of all the Holy Emperor experts present, causing their hearts to become extremely heavy. They all knew that although the three of them were only at the great perfection of the Holy Emperor, their true battle prowess had already reached the same level as the Holy Emperor. They were the most powerful people present. If even they could not deal with the skeleton, no one could. Surpassing the Holy Emperor. It's said that surpassing the Holy Emperor is a power on a completely different level. Compared to the Holy Emperor is like a chasm. It's impossible to fight back because it's on a completely different level. A protector of the Protector clan said in a trembling voice. A great elder of a Protector clan said with a trembling voice. Fear and despair filled his eyes at the same time. Saint Emperors were as weak as ants before a power that had surpassed Saint Emperors, let alone them, who were far weaker than Saint Emperors. The exit has already been sealed by the skeleton. We're all going to die here today. My family still needs me to protect it. Without me, those enemies will definitely not let my family off. It seems that my family will not be able to escape this calamity. Zhang Tai thought. It doesn't matter if I die. What's important is that the Tianyuan continent still needs our protection. Otherwise, the Tianyuan continent won't have the power to stop the invasion of the Beast God continent and the 100 races. Everyone sighed one after another. Many of them were filled with unwilling to fall here like this. Jianqin also let out the white tiger during this time, but he was still disappointed. The white tiger's countless formations and barriers were completely ineffective here. It was unable to pass through like before. At this moment, Jianqin thought about what Taita had said. His mysteries of war could break through the shackles of space, so he hesitated over whether he should let Taita try it or not. He wanted to see if his mysteries of war could pass through the formations and take them away. Just when Jianqin wanted to let Taita out of the artifact space, the entire death nest suddenly shook violently. With a great rumble, the barrier of the 3rd floor shook violently, and it actually showed signs of shattering. Following that, a second and a third gigantic rumbling sound rang out, causing the powerful formation on the 3rd floor of the death nest to tremble even more violently. In the end, the formation was actually torn apart under everyone's incredulous gazes. A crack several dozen meters wide appeared. At this moment, the baleful Een force was less than 1,000 meters away from everyone. Once they came in contact with the baleful Een force, they would not be able to survive even if they were Holy Emperor level experts. This was because the baleful Een force was countless times more terrifying than the baleful Een force the Houston possessed. Run! Someone bellowed out from the crowd, and the group of Supreme Holy Emperor experts immediately fled as quickly as they could. At this moment, all of them were focused on fleeing for their lives. They no longer had the time to think about how the crack had appeared. The blood-red skeleton was enraged. It produced a soundless roar and began to chase after everyone. It swung its bone club forward, and the moment it fell, the club that was several dozen meters long actually became several thousand meters long. It smashed the body of a Holy Emperor expert at the very back to pieces. His soul was dispersed by the terrifying force before it could even escape. Afterward, the blood-red skeleton swung its bone club again. The Scarlet Bone Club was surrounded by a dense layer of baleful Een force as it smashed down with lightning speed, enveloping over a dozen Holy Emperor experts below. Suddenly, a resplendent streak of light appeared, illuminating the surroundings. It dispersed the boundless Een force and grudges in the death nest as it shot over from afar with unbelievable speed. It was an extremely terrifying blade of light. It was crescent-shaped and shone with a dazzling light. The blade of light seemed to have broken through the boundaries of space. It was still far away in the previous moment, but in the next moment it had swept over the heads of all the Holy Emperor experts with a sharp blade chi. It charged toward the Bone Club with an unstoppable force. It was filled with a supreme sense of dominance. Boom! The moment the terrifying blade of light collided with the Bone Club, it immediately erupted with a deafening boom. The powerful ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the death nest as a terrifying storm, forcing all the Holy Emperor experts to stagger. They struggled to control their bodies. The blade of light blocked the Bone Club from the blood-red skeleton, saving the lives of over a dozen Holy Emperor experts. The blood-red skeleton stumbled a few steps back uncontrollably as its body trembled. A terrifying crack appeared on the Bone Club in its hand. At this moment, all the Holy Emperor experts had left the third zone of the death nest and arrived in the second zone. None of them continued to flee. Instead, they could not help but stop. They stared in the direction of the blood-red skeleton and the blade of light in shock. Who's attacking from the shadows? They're actually able to unleash such a terrifying attack against that terrifying skeleton. If I'm not mistaken, that flash of white light just now was a huge saber light. Who is it that released it? It's beyond the Holy Emperor. That's a power that surpasses the Holy Emperor. The senior who unleashed that blade of light must have reached that supreme level. Impossible. Is there really such an expert among us humans? That's impossible. Other than the 4 sovereigns who appeared in ancient times, there hasn't been a 5th sovereign on the Tianyuan continent in all these years. Is it a sovereign of the Arctic Ice Goddess Hall who secretly interfered? Yeah, it must be a sovereign of the extremely mysterious Ice Goddess Hall who secretly interfered. Although the Ice Goddess Hall never interferes with the matters of the Tianyuan continent, they probably don't want to see so many experts die here. I don't believe it's the Ice Goddess Hall. It's impossible for the Ice Goddess Hall to have a sovereign. It must be the Sea Goddess who secretly interfered because she's the only one who's still alive out of the 4 sovereigns of ancient times. The human experts were thrown into an uproar. Someone who had surpassed the Holy Emperor had actually secretly assisted them in such a hopeless situation. Just how exciting was this news? It made everyone extremely excited. They all felt like they had grasped onto a life-saving straw, seeing new hope. The blood-red skeleton became even more furious. Baleful Een force churned violently, endlessly pouring into the blood-red ground. Immediately, streaks of dazzling, blood-red light appeared from the ground, weaving together haphazardly. This was actually a formation hidden in the ground. It had been activated by the skeleton's baleful Een force, revealing itself from the ground. The formation began to operate. The endless Een force in the third zone of the death nest seemed to be affected by the formation. It began to churn violently in the air, and under the disbelieving gazes of the Holy Emperor experts, the Een force and grudges actually fused together, turning into a blood-red ball of baleful Een force. I finally understand now. The baleful Een force here is formed from the fusion of the Een force and grudges. This is all because of the formation on the ground. Only with the activation of the formation can the Een force and grudges fuse together. The death nest was cast down by M.O. Tianyin all those years ago. Was the formation on the ground left behind by M.O. Tianyin as well? Why did he do that? Many human experts came to a realization, but they soon became extremely confused. All of them were curious as to why M.O. Tianyin had left this place behind. The saint's fruit was definitely not the main reason. Perhaps it was just a cover. Een Qi and resentment fused together, forming even more baleful Een Qi. Right now, all the Een Qi and resentment in the third zone had practically disappeared. Only a thick, blood-red fog remained. Soon after, the boundless baleful Een Qi formed a huge, ferocious, and terrifying ghost face. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it lunged at everyone. With a flash of dazzling light, the resplendent blade of light appeared once again. It was filled with supreme dominance, directly cleaving down from the first zone. Its target was the dense, baleful Een force. When the blade of light collided with the baleful Een force, it actually forced back the mist that made all the Holy Emperor experts pale. The terrifying blade of light did not slow down at all, slicing through the baleful Een force in an extremely domineering manner. It struck the blood-red skeleton. Boom! With a boom, a several dozen meter long wound appeared on the blood-red skeleton. Half of its tough bones had been shattered by the flash of light, and its huge body staggered back. This time, it took over a dozen steps before stabilizing itself. The Holy Emperor experts in the second zone were stunned. Just a single blade of light had forced back the blood-red skeleton that had surpassed the Holy Emperor. Just what kind of power was this? Such an existence had completely exceeded all of their imaginations. They didn't even dare to believe that there was such a terrifying expert hidden in the world. Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish were shocked as well. They could obviously sense just how terrifying the blade of light was. Even with origin energy weapons, they were unable to unleash such power. Chapter 1163. In the Death Nest, the blood-red skeleton that struck fear into the hearts of countless Holy Emperor experts had been stopped by a mysterious expert. Although they could not see him, everyone knew just how terrifying he was. Without revealing himself, just a single blade of light from afar forced back the blood-red skeleton that was even stronger than the Holy Emperor. The blood-red skeleton was extremely furious. The dense, baleful Een force around it churned violently as it charged forward again and again. However, it was forced back by the terrifying blade of light every single time. It was unable to block it at all. More and more cracks appeared on its body, and a few of its bones had already been broken. A few resplendent blade of light shot out, forcing the surrounding Een force and grudges to the sides wherever they passed. Strands of brutal and terrifying blade chi remained, preventing the endless Een force and grudges from filling up the empty space created by the blade of light for a short period of time. At this moment, there were people moving around. Many of the Holy Emperor experts had already begun flying in the direction of the blade of light. They all wanted to see just who the person who had unleashed the blade of light was. Their actions immediately spurred on everyone present. They all shot off in the same direction with lightning speed. The identity of the mysterious expert had already affected many people. Jian Chen, Ruijin, and the others were no exception. They all flew in the direction of the blade of light with the crowd. Everyone passed through the second zone at lightning speed and arrived at the first zone. As soon as they entered, everyone's body shook. A powerful saber chi that made them feel suffocated filled the entire space. This powerful saber chi seemed to have infected the air, making everyone feel that the air here had a sharp chi. A resplendent white light appeared around a dozen kilometers away from them. It was as dazzling as the sun in the sky, shining with endless light, illuminating the entire first zone of the Death Nest. This was an endless amount of saber chi. The entire white light was formed by extremely powerful and domineering saber chi. If one looked carefully, it was not difficult to see that this ball of intense white light looked like a heavenly saber that could split the world. It was at least 100 meters long. That's a blade, someone exclaimed softly. At that moment, everyone's eyes were focused on the heavenly blade. Unfortunately, the heavenly blade was obscured by the boundless blade chi. All they could see was a blur. It was not clear. The great elders of the tyrant's blade school stared at the figure of the blade. The light in their eyes flickered as they became uncertain. At this moment, the powerful blade chi that filled the first floor of the Death Nest rapidly weakened. The white light condensed from the endless blade chi rapidly dimmed as well. In just a few seconds, the figure of the blade suddenly vanished, returning the death nest to normal. What's up with the blade? Is it secretly controlled by a sovereign, or is it all an effect of the formation? In my opinion, it's extremely likely for the blade to be an effect of the formation. It's definitely something Mo Tianyan left behind in the past. Immediately, a few of the Holy Emperor experts began to speculate. Some of them suspected that a sovereign was secretly controlling the blade, while others concluded that the blade of light had been conjured by the formation, one of Mo Tianyan's trump cards. The ground began to shake. The blood-red skeleton had passed through the formation and was chasing after them. The red mist around it surged into the sky as the baleful Yin force it gave off became even denser. Now that the blade of light had vanished, the group of Holy Emperor experts no longer dared to stay. They all left as quickly as they could. Jianqin and Ruijin were with them. As soon as they flew out of the death nest, Ruijin ripped open a space gate. However, as soon as the space gate was formed, over a dozen terrifying energy attacks shot over from all directions, shattering the space gate. Hand over the saint's fruit, or don't even think about leaving. A great elder of a protector clan bellowed out. His presence rapidly skyrocketed, making him seem like a completely different person compared to when he was running for his life earlier. Without the threat of the blood-red skeleton, everyone focused their attention on the saint's fruit again. Over 200 Holy Emperor experts surrounded Jianqin's group. The atmosphere became extremely tense. The great elders of Changyang Prefecture stood to one side with ugly expressions. They were extremely worried as well, but they did not step forward to help Jianqin at a time like this. Universe of Feathers. Suddenly, Hong Lian cried out. The 9 refined Godfire feather on her broke down again, turning into countless feathers that formed a huge cage that enveloped everyone. Each feather gave off fierce white flames, so the human experts did not dare to approach it. If you want the saint's fruit, then use your full strength. Some humans bellowed out as well. Many Holy Emperor experts stepped forward, using their saint-tier battle skills and powerful ancient secret techniques to attack Honglian's universe of feathers. The temperature within the universe of feathers was extremely high as well, causing the space there to slightly distort. Honglian did her best to support the universe of feathers. She said, Ruijin, hurry up and create a space gate. The battle skills and secret techniques of the humans are just too powerful. Their attacks are no weaker than the vengeful spirits of the Holy Emperor. I can't last much longer. The space within the universe of feathers has been affected by the flames, making it very unstable. Creating a space gate will be rather difficult. I'll try my best, said Ruijin before swiping his hand. He immediately ripped open the space in front of him. But this time, the space gate did not form as quickly. One of Ruijin's arms had already reached into the spatial crack. There were profound truths of the world on his arm as he used the abilities of a Saint King to construct a spatial gate. Chapter 1164. The sudden appearance of the huge hand made all the Holy Emperor experts' attacks come to a halt. They all raised their heads in surprise and doubt. The palm strike was extremely powerful. Even when compared to the most powerful, vengeful spirit in the death nest, Gustis, it was on par with it. Most importantly, many of the Holy Emperor experts could sense the powerful ripples of the mysteries of the world from the palm strike. It was definitely not something a Holy Emperor could achieve. Holy Emperor. A Holy Emperor has interfered, an ancestor of the ancient clan said with a deep voice. His complexion was very ugly. They still had a sliver of hope of obtaining the saint's fruit when they competed against the protector clans. But once a saint emperor interfered, they would no longer have any hope of obtaining the saint's fruit. It's him, the path lord of carnal desires. He's interested in the saint's fruit as well. A Holy Emperor expert cried out as he stared at the sky in interest. A white-robed, middle-aged man had appeared in the empty space at some point in time. He hovered in the air like an ordinary person, looking down from above. His evil-looking face was sickly pale. He was the Path Lord of carnal desires. Although he had appeared in an extremely low-key manner, he gave off the feeling that the world was under his control as he hovered in the air. Hong Lian's expression changed within the world of feathers. She said with a deep voice, "A human holy emperor has come. If he works with the holy emperor, my world of feathers will last even shorter." Rui Jin remained silent. He was very stern. The space within the world of feathers had become very unstable due to the terrifying temperature. He was currently constructing a space gate with all his might. The Path Lord of carnal desires stared sharply at the huge fireball formed from countless phoenix feathers. He slowly raised his hand, and the energy in the surroundings immediately began to surge. Endless world force began to gather in his hand at an unbelievable speed. 7 emotions in one heartless palm. The Path Lord's tone was extremely calm. He immediately pressed his palm down as soon as he finished speaking. Immediately, the vast and surging world force in his hand surged out, turning into an invisible hand that slammed towards the world of feathers with great might. As it did so, the energy in the surroundings was rapidly sucked over, fusing into the hand condensed from the world force, making it even more powerful. Not only was this palm a powerful strike from the Holy Emperor, but it also contained the path of emotions and desires of the Path Lord of carnal desires. The gigantic palm struck the universe of feathers, but it was incapable of breaking the universe of feathers. The surging streams of worldly energy and worldly powers dissipated. However, an invisible wave passed through the universe of feathers obstruction to enter the interior of the universe of feathers. This was the Path Lord's 7 emotions and 6 desires. It was not a pure energy attack. Instead, it was a unique technique specially used to attack the soul of the opponent. Ruijin, Blackfish, and Honglian were protected by the origin pearls, so they naturally did not fear the Path Lord's attack. Blackfish hovered above Jianqin as the origin pearls shone with hazy light to block the descending path of emotions and desires, helping Jianqin endure the attack. However, the space within the world of feathers was affected as well, causing it to tremble violently. If it were any other time, the trembling space would not have affected them at all. However, Ruijin was currently constructing a space gate, so he feared the instability of the space the most. The space gate that was about to succeed immediately collapsed, causing Ruijin's efforts to go to waste. God damn it, that bastard. Why is he causing trouble at a time like this? Once I break through to Class 9, he'll be the first person I kill. Ruijin was furious. Killing intent surged around him as he made up his mind to kill. The Path Lord's palm strike had basically cut off any thoughts of leaving. A gleam of light immediately flashed through the Path Lord's eyes when he saw how his palm strike had failed to achieve the desired effect. He murmured, "It really is an origin energy treasure after all. It's still so powerful even after it's dispersed. However, maintaining this origin energy treasure must be extremely taxing on you, so let me see just how long you can last. I have to obtain the Saint's Fruit today. It's probably the only thing that can heal my injuries quickly." With that, the Path Lord continued to attack the world of feathers that Honglian had created with the 9 refined Godfire feather. Every single strike was extremely powerful and shocking. He basically controlled all the world force in a range of several tens of thousand kilometers, all by himself. With a raise of his hand, he could use the world force to launch extremely powerful attacks. Under the Path Lord's continuous attacks, the space within the world of feathers had become extremely chaotic. As a result, Ruijin was unable to create a space gate despite his great strength. "We can't continue like this. I've used up too much energy. Ruijin, Blackfish, let's go out and carve out a path of blood. This time, we have to make them pay a bloody price," Honglian said through gritted teeth with a pale face. Cold killing intent filled her eyes. Although the 3 of them had heavily injured a few human experts in the death nest earlier, they had shown mercy and did not kill them all. However, Honglian had become determined to kill the human experts, now that they had been forced into a corner. Honglian, leave with Blackfish and Jianqin. I'll go meet the Holy Emperor of the humans, Ruijin said sternly. He was filled with resentment towards the Path Lord as well. Honglian nodded. She looked at Blackfish and asked in concern, Blackfish, can you hold on? Blackfish was clearly more poisoned than before. Not only had his face become black, but even his exposed hands had become bluish-black. Blood constantly flowed from the corner of his mouth. This poison really is powerful. It's much more terrifying than the greatest poison in the world right now. However, I'm a holy emperor at great perfection after all. It won't be that easy to poison me to death, Blackfish said with an extremely deep voice. Senior Blackfish, once we're safe, I'll immediately use the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force to purge the poison from your body, said Jianqin. Suddenly, the universe of feathers formed by the 9 refined Godfire feather suddenly collapsed. Countless thick feathers shrank to the length of a finger in the air, streaking through the air as streaks of red light began to gather towards Honglian. In the end, they reformed into a feather robe that draped over Honglian. I was right. You really can't last for much longer. You've finally been forced out by me. Hand over the saint's fruit, and I won't make things difficult for you. The Path Lord's voice rang out. The Path Lord of carnal desires' voice rang out from the sky. He spoke extremely indifferently, although he knew that the 3 of them were protected by origin energy treasures. He still acted like victory was within his grasp. What answered him was a devastating golden sword chi. Ruijin charged up from below with the sacred dragon's armor and the origin orb above his head. He charged at the Path Lord aggressively with the sacred dragon's sword in hand. The Path Lord showed no fear at all, but there was an undetectable hint of fear in the depths of his eyes. He did not receive the golden sword chi from Ruijin's origin energy head-on. Instead, he used the power of the world to disperse it. Although Ruijin possessed an origin energy treasure, he was not an origin realm expert who had surpassed the Holy Emperor. He could only make Holy Emperors fear him, but he could not suppress the 3 Holy Emperor with absolute strength like Shaoling. The Path Lord was kept busy by Ruijin. Below, Honglian and Blackfish engaged in a massacre. This time, they did not show any mercy. They used their full strength to kill anyone who stood in their way. Very soon, several weaker Holy Emperor experts died to their hands. Their souls were wiped out, and even their souls failed to escape. Over a dozen other Holy Emperor experts were heavily injured. They were either saved by their companions at a crucial moment or used secret techniques to flee. The 5 old men of Mercenary City looked at each other, and a sliver of determination appeared in their eyes. One of them said, Whatever, the 5 of us don't want the saint's fruit anymore. We're about to die anyway, so why don't we use our last sliver of energy to use a secret technique again and leave the saint's fruit for the talented people of Mercenary City? Chapter 1165. The 5 senior figures of Mercenary City worked together to use the supreme secret technique again. Since they had already expended a lot of essence when using the secret technique earlier, they were basically like arrows at the end of its flight. There was not much essence left in their bodies, and their flames of life could be extinguished at any moment. They had already reached the final juncture of their lives, so it was much more strenuous for them to use the secret technique this time. Just the charging time alone was much longer than before. Jianqin charged into the crowd with Honglian and Blackfish with his emperor armament. The Holy Emperor's battle prowess at the 7th heavenly layer had been pushed to the limit by Jianqin. He vaguely seemed to be on par with the 8th heavenly layer experts. The Holy Emperor's artifact hovered above Jianqin's head, blocking the powerful attacks from the Holy Emperor's 9th heavenly layer and great perfection from time to time. Even with that being the case, Jianqin was covered in blood, both his and his enemies'. Even though he was riddled with wounds, his battle prowess was still boundless due to the toughness of the chaotic body. Ruijin and the Path, Lord of Carnal Desires, fought extremely intensely. Both of their strengths had reached the peak of perfection, so every time they clashed, they would possess devastating might. The battle had gradually moved from the height of 10,000 meters to the cold and dark outer space. Honglian, Blackfish, and Jianqin had already charged into the encirclement of the humans. At this moment, Honglian's origin energy treasure, the 9 refined Godfire feathers, disintegrated once again, turning into feathers that were over 100 meters long. They radiated with endless white flames, forming a huge wall of fire that blocked the humans behind them. "I'll stop them." "Blackfish, leave with Jianqin first," Honglian said to Blackfish as she used her own power to support the wall of fire. Blackfish nodded and said nothing more. He immediately grabbed Jianqin's arm and flew off into the distance. He wanted to create a space gate in a stable space and leave. The poison within him had become even more severe. If he did not control it in time, he would probably be doomed even with his supreme strength. "You won't be able to leave that easily." Right at this moment, a cold laugh came from the void. Then the space several hundred meters ahead rippled slightly, and 2 burly men suddenly appeared there. The appearance of the 2 people caused Jianqin and Blackfish's expressions to drastically change. Blackfish stared at them with an ugly expression and growled, "Rulers of the Beast God continent, I never thought that even the 2 of you would come." The 2 people who had suddenly appeared were Kaiser and Lankiros from the Beast God continent. However, compared to last time, the 2 of them were clearly slightly paler. Kaiser's gaze paused on the saint artifact, hovering beside Jianqin for a while, and a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. He sneered, "Hand over the saint's fruit, and I won't make things difficult for you." Jianqin stowed the saint artifact away. The white tiger was currently in the artifact space, so he needed to guard against the possibility of Kaiser taking the saint artifact away. With a flip of his hand, a damaged divine hull appeared. It was the divine hull of the 8 wastelands that Kaiser had beaten to a pulp before. In the past few days, the divine hull of the 8 wastelands had been repairing itself, but it was rather slow. As a result, it seemed like the divine hull of the 8 wastelands was in much better shape than before. It could even endure a few attacks from the Holy Emperor. "Looks like you haven't been taught a lesson by the barrier spirit of Mercenary City enough. Do you want to taste the bitter fruit of last time again?" Blackfish asked. A sliver of extremely deep fear immediately appeared in Kaiser and Lankuro's eyes when they heard about the barrier spirit of Mercenary City. The 2 of them felt fear towards the barrier spirit. It was an expert that had truly surpassed the Holy Emperor. However, Kaiser's gaze turned cold again very soon. He coldly said, "Last time the barrier spirit was alarmed because we were too close to Mercenary City. However, this place is extremely far from Mercenary City, so it's impossible for the barrier spirit of Mercenary City to come here no matter what. If you're counting on it, you can give up on it." Behind them, the terrifying temperature suddenly vanished. The 9 refined Godfire feather reappeared on Honglian. She was enveloped by a layer of terrifying white flames before charging toward Jianqin as a streak of white light. She ignored the human experts behind her. The 2 rulers of the Beast God continent were even more terrifying than the human experts behind her. She knew that it would be very difficult for Jianqin to escape once he became their target. Blackfish clenched his teeth. Even though he was deeply poisoned, he no longer had any other choice. All he could do was grit his teeth and charge up with his machete to keep the Lankuros busy. A dragon's roar rang out from the 9 heavens. Ruijin, who was fighting the Path, Lord of Carnal Desires in outer space, discovered the situation below. He immediately abandoned the Path, Lord of Carnal Desires, and hurried back. He turned into a streak of light. A dazzling golden streak of light shot through the sky like a meteor as he shot toward the ground with lightning speed. "Golden Divine Dragon, our battle isn't over yet. The Path Lord had already grasped the Holy Emperor's abilities, so he was even faster than Ruijin. He blocked Ruijin before Rodin could, directly pushing out a palm with tremendous energy to stop Ruijin from coming to his rescue. The Holy Emperor of the Humans, you've actually joined forces with the experts of the Beast God continent, Ruijin thought. He immediately understood the deeper meaning behind this, and his face sank. The Path Lord of Carnal Desires remained silent. He unleashed his full strength as a Saint Emperor and kept Ruijin busy. The battle continued into outer space, where no one could do anything to the other. Jianchen did not pay any attention to the battle between Ruijin and the other two. He immediately used the illusory flash and shot off into the distance as quickly as he could. He could only rely on himself now. Kaiser and Lankuros both sneered as they watched Jianchen leave. They said steadily, "Sangqiong, why haven't you done anything yet? The sooner we get it, the sooner we can return." Another figure appeared in the sky. It was a white-robed old man with a head full of silver hair that danced in the wind. He was covered in immortal dust and possessed an otherworldly presence. At first glance, he did seem a little like a god. The third Holy Emperor of the Beast God continent had also descended on the Tianyuan continent. With all three emperors present, only the 10 protector clans could contend against them. The expressions of all the human experts changed drastically. Their faces were ashen. With the 3 emperors of the Beast God continent present, the Holy Emperor of the Humans, the Path Lord of Carnal Desires, had turned traitor and actually joined forces with the experts of the Beast God continent for the Saint's Fruit. What power did the humans have left to contend against them? Is the Saint's Fruit going to end up in the hands of magical beasts? Many of the Holy Emperor experts from the Protector clans and ancient clans felt powerless as well as deeply humiliated. The Saint's Fruit was a sacred object of the humans. Since ancient times, it had always been in the possession of humans. There had never been a case of magical beasts stealing it. If the Saint's Fruit ended up in the hands of an outsider, it would be a great humiliation that they would never be able to wash away. The Holy Emperor of the Peng clan, Sangqiong, hovered in the air as he stared at Jianchen's back. The light in his eyes flickered as he hesitated. He's actually obtained the Saint's Fruit. He's the person who's looked after the winged tiger for many years. He's the benefactor of the winged tiger. Should I attack him or not? Should I leave the Saint's Fruit to him so that he can become a Saint Emperor? Or should I take the Saint's Fruit so that Kaiser and the Tiger Emperor can heal? At this moment, a vast and tremendous presence appeared in the distance. It was the presence of a Saint Emperor, and for a moment it actually appeared. It attracted the attention of the 3 great experts of the Beast God continent. After such a long time of preparation, the 5 elders of Mercenary City finally used this supreme, secret technique again. The 5 of them combined their powers and used the little remaining essence, energy, and spirit in their bodies to condense the image of Mo Tianyin. The Saint's Fruit is a sacred object of our human race. It can be obtained by any one of us, but it can't end up in the hands of an outsider, the 5 old men of Mercenary City said. Afterward, Mo Tianyin extended his hand and extended it toward the Holy Emperor of the Peng clan in a single moment. When the hand fell, it actually froze the space there, preventing Sangqiong from dodging. He was trapped by the huge hand. Booms constantly rang out from the huge hand. The Holy Emperor of the Peng clan was attacking as hard as he could in an attempt to break free from the prison. The 5 elders of Mercenary City trembled violently. Their faces had already become extremely pale. This secret technique required the 5 of them to use their vital energies as support, which was equivalent to draining away their life force. With their current physical condition, it was already very difficult for them to use it a second time. They were basically putting their lives on the line, so they would not be able to last much longer. Move out. At the same time, the great elders of the Changyang Prefecture secretly communicated with one another. They formed hand seals at the same time and used an ancient, secret technique. Borrow the power of the world, stellar transposition. The great elders of the Changyang prefecture called out at the same time. They suddenly vanished, using an ancient secret technique to switch places with a rock beside Jianchen. They arrived before him in a single moment. Don't resist. Relax. Changyang Zhu Xiao called out sternly. They formed hand seals and used the stellar transposition again. This time, they crossed several dozen kilometers and appeared in an empty area with Jianchen. The people of the Changyang prefecture have fled with the saint's fruit. The human experts also reacted. They all cried out as they quickly pursued. Changyang Qingyin glanced at the people behind him and said with a deep voice, "The space here is unstable. It's very difficult to create a space gate. Let's go." The great elders of the Changyang prefecture did not hesitate at all. They immediately fled with Jianchen as quickly as they could. God damn it, why is it like this? Kaiser and Lankiros could not help but curse. They were extremely furious. Originally, they had thought that everything would be fine, but they had never thought that Songqiong would be trapped, allowing Jianchen to flee so far away with the saint's fruit. Little Phoenix, you're much more powerful than last time, but you still can't injure me. I have matters to attend to today, so I'll fight you another day, Kaiser growled. He wanted to give up on Honglian and chase after Jianchen. However, the scorching godfire hairpin immediately shot toward Kaiser with terrifying white flames, forcing him to be cautious. He had no time to chase after Jianchen. Don't even think about leaving if we don't decide the victor today, Honglian coldly said. Her attacks were even more ferocious than before, firmly keeping Kaiser busy. Blackfish did the same. He used his full strength with the machete to keep Lankiros busy, preventing him from leaving. Although the Path Lord of Carnal Desires was fighting with Ruijin in outer space, he had always been paying attention to the situation below. When he saw Jianchen actually flee with the saint's fruit, he immediately panicked. He no longer cared about Ruijin. He wanted to chase after Jianchen. Holy Emperor of the humans, our battle isn't over yet. With a flash of golden light, Ruijin's sacred dragon's sword swept past the Path Lord's head while he was distracted. A few strands of hair flew through the air, almost injuring the Path Lord. Chapter 1166. Jianchen was carried away by the great elders of the Changyang prefecture. They flew off into the distance as quickly as they could. They had all become holy emperor for many years, so their grasp over space was far greater than Jianchen's. They moved even faster than Jianchen when he used the illusory flash. At this moment, the great elders of the Changyang prefecture were all stern. They only cared about flying towards the stable space in the distance. They all knew that they would basically become the public enemy of all the human experts if they took Jianchen away like this. Although they were great elders of protector clans and possessed great statuses, no one would fear their status before the saint's fruit that could allow people to become emperors. The temptation of becoming a holy emperor was something that every single holy emperor could not resist. As long as they could become emperors, they would not even need to fear the protector clans, so there was obviously no need to worry about offending them. Behind them, a large group of human experts pursued them. In particular, the eyes of those who knew about the wondrous effects of the saint's fruit had even turned red. A portion of them had already used secret techniques to catch up, rapidly closing the distance between them and Jianchen's group. Honglian, Ruijin, and Blackfish each kept a holy emperor busy, preventing them from interfering with Jianchen. They were unable to pay attention to anything else. Borrowing the force of the world, stellar shift. The great elders of the Changyang prefecture used a secret technique again, crossing over 100 kilometers in a single moment. They then continued to flee into the distance with Jianchen. Using a secret technique like this consumed a lot of energy, not to mention that they were carrying another person. As a result, they were unable to use it continuously even with their strength. They needed a buffer time every time they used it. As the two parties fled, they crossed over 1,000 kilometers before finally arriving in a relatively stable space. Changyang Qingyun immediately began to construct a space gate. At the same time, over a dozen tremendous strands of energy and sword qi shot behind them with lightning-like speed. Every single attack possessed devastating power. These were attacks from over a dozen Holy Emperor experts at great perfection. They came from protector clans, ancient clans, and a few powerful independent cultivators. The tremendous attacks shot toward the space gate with an unstoppable force. Wherever they passed, the space violently shook, as if it was unable to endure the powerful energy and would shatter. As a result, the space gate that Changyang Qingyun had constructed became rather unstable. "Let's go!" Changyang Qingyun called out with a deep voice. He was in a hurry. The great elders of the Changyang Prefecture all became extremely stern. Without any hesitation, they immediately entered the space gate with Jianqin as quickly as they could. The space gate immediately vanished after all of them had left, causing the space there to return to normal. Soon after, the attacks from the Holy Emperor experts at great perfection struck the space there as well, causing it to shatter. The space in a radius of several thousand meters violently shook. Bastards, those bastards from the Changyang Prefecture. They actually managed to escape. I never thought that the saint's fruit would end up in the hands of the Changyang Prefecture. Looks like a new Holy Emperor will appear on the Tianyuan continent before long. It's just a pity that he's not a part of our clan. He's from the Changyang Prefecture. Sigh, the saint's fruit that only appears once every 40,000 years. It's something that many of our seniors can only come across by luck. Yet we've missed it just like that. What a pity! What a pity! It's all the fault of those 3 stray magical beasts that don't belong to the beast god continent. If it weren't for them protecting Jianqin wholeheartedly, how would the saint's fruit have ended up in the hands of the Changyang Prefecture? Not only has Changyang Prefecture gained an unprecedented prodigy, but they also have a special relationship with the winged tiger, coupled with the future Holy Emperor. Just who on the Tianyuan continent can stop them? Many of the experts discussed among themselves. Many of them were filled with regret and dejection, while some of the experts from the protector clans became rather worried. The current strength of the Changyang clan had completely exceeded what they had imagined, so they did not wish for any of the protector clans to be the only one standing on top. Boom! 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 With a few violent booms, violent ripples of energy shot out in all directions, causing the space around them to violently tremble. The supreme might that belonged to the Holy Emperor filled the surroundings, causing the world to tremble. Songqiong stood proudly in the void. His whole body emitted an unparalleled divine aura as if he was the ruler of the world. He used his absolute strength to break the secret technique used by the 5 elders of Mercenary City. That unparalleled divine aura that was as vast as the sea directly crushed over, causing Mo Tianyun's illusory figure to collapse. The 5 elders of Mercenary City shuddered violently as they spat out a mouthful of blood at the same time. It turned into a bloody mist that drifted down from the sky. Their faces immediately became extremely pale and dispirited. Following that, the light in the eyes of 4 of them rapidly faded, becoming hollow. Their bodies fell straight to the ground, motionless. Only one of them could barely remain standing. The founding member below stared fixedly at Songqiong, who had broken free. He said powerlessly, "It's just a pity that the 5 of us are already at the end of our rope, or else, or else." Before he could finish speaking, the light in the eyes of the remaining founding member rapidly faded as well. He left the world with regret and regret. Tianjin and the elders of Mercenary City stood in the distance, silently as they stared at the cold corpses of the founding members. They were all gloomy and sorrowful. They did not stop the 5 founding members because they did not have much time left in the first place. Even if they did not die here today, they would pass away in Mercenary City in the next few days. The deaths of the 5 founding members have protected the Saint's Fruit for the Tianyuan continent. Their deaths are more important than a mountain. They died on the battlefield in a grand fashion, not silently passing away in Mercenary City, Tianjin said with a heavy voice. The holy emperor of the Peng clan, Sangqiong, slowly withdrew his might. He glanced around indifferently and said, "The Saint's Fruit has been taken away, and its whereabouts are unknown. It's time for us to return." Sangqiong's voice was calm, but it reverberated through the surroundings, allowing everyone to hear him clearly. "No, Sangqiong, we must obtain the Saint's Fruit. You're the fastest in the world, so you should be able to catch up to them," Lankiros said reluctantly. However, before he could finish speaking, Sangqiong had already turned into a faint blur and shot off into the distance. He seemed to have completely fused with the surrounding space, moving through it silently. He moved with unbelievable speed, vanishing in a single instant. As expected, he was headed towards the Beast God continent. "Sangqiong!" Lankiros roared at the sky. He was extremely unwilling to accept this. Even Kaiser's face had become extremely sunken. "Let's go!" Kaiser gave the order to retreat through gritted teeth. He immediately gave up on his opponent and left with Lankiros. This time, Honglian and Blackfish did not continue to tangle with them. They allowed them to leave before charging in the direction of Ruijin. The Path Lord raised an eyebrow and said, "Golden Divine Dragon, our battle ends here. Farewell." With that, he wanted to leave. "You won't be able to leave that easily." Ruijin's voice was icy cold. His killing intent was heavy as the sacred dragon's sword shone brightly, firmly entangling the Path Lord. "Blazing purgatory!" Honglian called out from afar. She had already hurried over. The scorching godfire hairpin spat out a large amount of white flames that filled the sky, forming a huge fireball that surrounded Ruijin and the Path Lord. The terrifying temperature caused space to violently pulse. Even though the Path Lord had grasped the mysteries of the world even more profound than the Holy Emperor, he was unable to use any ability related to space to escape from this unstable space. Soon after, the scorching godfire hairpin flew into the fireball and shot toward the Path Lord with lightning-like speed. Chapter 1167. The Path Lord's face suddenly changed. He was still injured right now, having yet to recover from the wounds he had received from the barrier spirit of Mercenary City. He could temporarily protect himself against Ruijin in his current state, but he was not confident he could escape unscathed if the 3 of them attacked him at the same time. What troubled him the most was that Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu were all protected by origin energy treasures. Even someone as powerful as the Holy Emperor would struggle to injure them, and even his famed technique was unable to affect Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu, who were protected by origin energy treasures. However, their origin energy weapons all possessed origin energy. This was a great power that only experts who had surpassed the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation could wield. It was a power on another level, so even Holy Emperors would struggle to endure being injured by this power. The Path Lord became extremely stern. He used the Holy Emperor's ability to control the power of the world and sent 3 palm strikes at Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu from afar. Each palm strike possessed tremendous power and contained the mysteries of the world that the Holy Emperor had grasped. Even a peak expert at great perfection like the Holy Emperor would be as insignificant as an ant before such power. They would not be able to endure it at all. Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish showed no fear. They aggressively attacked the Path Lord. Before their origin energy weapons, the Path Lord's peerlessly powerful attacks were nothing. They were all dispersed by their origin energy weapons. Without slowing down at all, the 3 origin energy weapons all shone with eternal light as they shot toward the Path Lord. Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu all hated the Path Lord to the extreme, so they used their full strength this time. The 3 origin energy weapons shot over in a triangular formation, radiating with tremendous presences that caused space to freeze. They had already locked onto the Path Lord's presence. The Path Lord struggled to maintain his composure from before. He suddenly bellowed out, "Do you really think I'm that easy to bully?" Immediately, a vast and surging storm of energy erupted from his body, forming a hurricane of energy that wreaked havoc in all directions. It caused space to tremble and tear open one spatial crack after another. An extremely pure and powerful energy had condensed in his hands. He avoided the aggressive Ruijin and Honglian and took the initiative to approach Blackfish. One of his hands seemed to have fused with space, creating a dreamlike blur in the air. It seemed slow, but it struck Blackfish's machete with great speed. It was not a collision between a hand and an origin energy weapon. Instead, it struck the side of the machete with tremendous energy, knocking the machete to the side. Blackfish's arm became numb from the tremendous force. After knocking the machete aside, the Path Lord's other hand struck Blackfish's chest with lightning-like speed. Powerful energy erupted from his hand, knocking Blackfish far away. The origin energy armor on him flickered rapidly, fending off the power from the Path Lord's palm strike. The Path Lord immediately charged out through the opening. He knew that it was very difficult for him to injure Ruijin and the other two, who were protected by the origin energy armor. He would not be able to gain any benefits if he continued fighting with his heavily injured body. At this moment, a terrifyingly high temperature swept over from behind. The scorching Godfire hairpin had already arrived behind him with a ball of terrifying white flames. His speed was extremely fast, and he was almost at the Path Lord's back. The Path Lord no longer had the time to dodge. He turned around and hurriedly struck out with his hand, controlling the energy in the surroundings to block the hairpin's attack. However, the Path Lord had only struck out with his palm strike in a hurry. It was not powerful enough, so the hairpin dispersed it like a hot knife through butter. It continued towards the Path Lord's face. The Path Lord's eyes narrowed. With a wave of his hand, a divine hall immediately flew out of his space ring. It expanded from the size of a fist to the size of a house in a single instance, blocking the Path Lord's path. In the end, the scorching Godfire heavenly hairpin struck the divine hall, erupting with a deafening boom. The entire divine hall shook violently as cracks rapidly spread out. However, at this moment, a resplendent golden light suddenly flickered behind the Path Lord. Ruijin had silently arrived behind the Path Lord at a certain time. He wielded his sword with his right hand as he formed a seal with his left hand. The sacred dragon's sword stabbed towards the Path Lord as a golden streak of light. The Path Lord was surprised when he sensed the situation behind him. Ruijin had appeared far too suddenly, and he had failed to sense him at all. He sighed inside. The various abilities and secret techniques of the dragon race really are wondrous. Although he thought about it, the Path Lord's reaction was extremely fast. With the abilities of the Holy Emperor, he directly ignored the rippling space and fused with the space there in an attempt to dodge Ruijin's attack. Secret technique of the dragon race, spatial lock. At that crucial moment, Ruijin's left hand suddenly pressed gently against the space there, causing the space before him to instantly freeze up. It became as tough as a rock. Caught off guard, the Path Lord was affected as well. He froze up and became immobilized. However, in the next moment, the Path Lord used his supreme strength to shatter the frozen space, forcefully breaking through Ruijin's secret technique. However, due to the delay, he had lost the best opportunity to dodge. Ruijin's sacred dragon's sword stabbed him mercilessly, penetrating his chest from his back. The Path Lord grunted. The feeling of having his chest pierced by the sacred dragon's sword with origin energy was definitely not pleasant. The wounds he had suffered were far greater than usual. Bang! The Path Lord kicked backwards, landing on Ruijin's chest with great accuracy. He sent Rui Jin flying far away and pulled the sacred dragon's sword out of his chest. The Path Lord's white robes were already dyed red with blood. His already pale face became even paler, and his injuries became even more severe. Holy Emperor of the humans, die! With a delicate cry, flames surged around Honglian. She made her way around the divine hall and continued to attack the Path Lord with the scorching Godfire hairpin. Her cold eyes were filled with killing intent. The Path Lord rapidly retreated as he glanced at Ruijin and Honglian with a sunken gaze. He gritted his teeth and said, "If I hadn't been injured by the barrier spirit of Mercenary City, the three of you wouldn't have been able to harm me. However, if I wanted to leave, the three of you wouldn't be able to stop me." The Path Lord retreated again and again, no longer making direct contact with Honglian and the others. He slowly moved his hands with the profound truths of the world, as if he had established some sort of connection with the space there. The two of them resonated with each other from afar. Spatial shatter. Suddenly, the Path Lord of carnal desires bellowed out. Immediately, an extremely powerful force of the world surged out. The space before him began to shatter and collapse, turning into eternal darkness. There was only nothingness within. Chapter 1168. The space shattered by the Path Lord collapsed piece by piece, and the area affected grew wider and wider. From afar, it seemed like a huge black hole had appeared, preventing Ruijin, Honglian, and Blackfish from approaching it. They avoided it from afar. The Path Lord of carnal desires had vanished from the collapsed space filled with darkness. The collapsed space had blocked their vision. A while later, the collapsed space slowly began to recover. In the end, it returned to its original state, but the Path Lord of carnal desires had already vanished. "I can't believe he managed to escape," Honglian said angrily with a furious look on her face. "The Holy Emperor knows quite a few abilities. It's obviously nothing difficult for the three of us to fend off the Holy Emperor, but it'll still be difficult to kill an expert of that level. However, the Holy Emperor has already been struck by my sword. My sword pierced his chest, so he won't be able to recover in a short amount of time. Although I failed to kill him, I made him pay a certain price," Ruijin said. His voice was filled with some pity. "Let's go find Jianqin as soon as possible." He left with the people of the Protector clans. Although we're from the same clan, all familial ties and friendships are useless before the Saint's fruit. I'm worried that he'll be in danger. He's our only hope of returning to our clansmen, so we can't let anything happen to him. At the same time, Blackfish's poison is getting worse and worse. He needs the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force to heal," Honglian said sternly. Ruijin nodded. He immediately left with Honglian and Blackfish. He constantly used secret techniques to find Jianqin's traces. After Ruijin, Heiyu, and Heiyu's departure, the scattered Holy Emperor experts in the air all sighed and left as well. Many of them were jealous, regretful, and unwilling. Many of them had been looking forward to the day when they could become an expert at the level of the Holy Emperor, standing at the apex of the pyramid and above the Protector clans. Now that they had missed out on the Saint's fruit, even they found it rather difficult to accept the great ups and downs. This was because there was not a single Holy Emperor who was not tempted by the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation. Once they reached that level of cultivation, not only would they gain unprecedented strength, they would also gain a lifespan of several thousand years. The area outside the death nest rapidly became much quieter. Most of the Holy Emperor experts had already left. Only a few of them remained, unwilling to leave. When Jianqin and the great elders of Changyang Prefecture emerged from the space gate, they were no longer in the same space. Instead, they had entered an independent miniature world. The energy of the world was extremely abundant there, and the scenery was beautiful. It was an extremely beautiful miniature world. Jianqin glanced around, and a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. He had been here before, so he could tell with a single glance that this was where the protector clans of Changyang Prefecture resided. Changyang Qingyun directly returned to the protector clan with Jianqin through the space gate. The space where the protector clans resided was isolated from the outside world. Under normal circumstances, the world gate would be tightly shut and completely cut off from the outside world. They could only leave through special methods. Jianqin did not feel any sense of security at all when he was in a place like this. Instead, he felt a great sense of danger. The sense of danger was even more intense than when he was surrounded by the vengeful spirits of the Holy Emperor. Jianqin's heart sank, but he did not show it on the surface. He discreetly observed the great elders beside him and discovered that they were all filled with joy and excitement from the bottom of their hearts. Jianqin could even see passion and eagerness in Changyang Qinyan's eyes. He was extremely excited. At this moment, Changyang Qinyan also looked at Jianqin. Just when he wanted to say something, Jianqin beat him to it. "Great elders, I'm very heavily injured. I need to find a place to heal immediately, or there might be repercussions." Jianqin was covered in blood right now. He seemed like a bloody person. His body was covered in vicious wounds, so deep that his bones could be seen. It was a horrible sight. If it were not for his tough, chaotic body, he probably would have collapsed long ago. "Xiangtian, your wounds are just too heavy. Come with us to the ancestral hall to heal first. There are medicines stored there that can help you recover quickly," Changyang Zuyinkong said in concern. "Thank you for your concern, great-grandfather, but I have medicines on me, so I can deal with them myself." Jianqin's face changed when he reached there. He immediately vomited a mouthful of blood and weakly said, "My wounds are rapidly worsening. I can't delay any longer. I need to find a place to heal immediately." With that, Jianqin flew toward a mountain nearby while trembling. He used his emperor armament to carve out a hole and disappeared inside. Changyang Qinyan stared at Jianqin's back deeply. The light in his eyes flickered as he became uneasy. However, he recovered very soon and laughed aloud. "I never thought that the saint's fruit would end up in our Changyang Prefecture's hands. This is just far too significant to our Changyang Prefecture. Before long, a holy emperor will appear in our Changyang Prefecture. Yeah, once Xiangtian consumes the saint's fruit, he'll definitely be able to successfully break through to the level of holy emperor with his talent." Changyang Zuyinkong gently smiled. Changyang Zuyinshao faintly smiled. Indescribable pride filled his face as he glanced at Changyang Qinyan from the corner of his eyes. Changyang Qinyan's face stiffened when he heard that, but it only lasted for a split second. He recovered in the blink of an eye and smiled. "That's right. Xiangtian's talent is unprecedented, reaching such accomplishments in less than a century. I believe Xiangtian will break through to the level of Holy Emperor very soon and become a supreme expert that can deter the world. All right, let's stop here. We've all exhausted ourselves in the death's nest, so let's hurry up and recover. Right now, we need to maintain our peak condition and deal with any sudden attacks from other experts. After all, the temptation of the saint's fruit is just far too great. We need to be on guard at all times." The great elders of Changyang Prefecture all left at the same time. They all went to the ancestral hall in the center. Jianqin stood in the cave with a rather sunken face. Under the envelopment of his soul, the conversations and expressions of the great elders of Changyang Prefecture could not escape his eyes. He could clearly see their reactions. This really isn't a safe place. Changyang Qinyan's desire for the saint's fruit is just too great. As for the other great elders, they haven't shown it yet. But who knows what they're thinking, Jianqin sighed. At that moment, he suddenly felt that the people of Changyang Prefecture could not be trusted, including Changyang Zushao and Changyang Zuyinshao. Chapter 1169. My priority right now is to recover as soon as possible. I need to return to my peak condition in the shortest amount of time possible. Only then can I deal with the dangers that may come later. It's a pity that Rui Jin and the other two aren't here. Otherwise, even if the great elders of Changyang Prefecture really do have ill intentions and want to steal my saint's fruit, there would be no need for me to fear them so much. It's a pity that my current strength is nowhere near enough to contend against them, Jianqin thought. He cast down a barrier at the entrance of the cave and entered the artifact space to heal. 2 days later, 2 days passed. During that time, everything in Changyang Prefecture was peaceful. The 7 great elders of Changyang Prefecture were recovering the saint force they had expended in the Death's Nest in the ancestral hall. Jianqin had also remained in the artifact space for 2 days. His wounds had already been healed by the artifact spirit, and he had returned to his peak condition. I still can't go out right now. Once I do, it's extremely likely that they'll want the saint's fruit from me. If I don't give it to them, conflict will be unavoidable. I definitely won't be able to keep the saint's fruit with my current strength. So the best method right now is to stall for time and hope that Rui Jin and the others can find me in time. At that time, I won't have to fear Changyang Prefecture anymore, Jianqin thought. He was currently in the independent space of Changyang Prefecture. It could be described as the safest place, but it could also be described as the most dangerous because there was an extraordinarily powerful Emperor armament that had been passed down for a very long time. Once the Emperor armament unleashed its might, he would not be able to fend it off even with his Divine Hall and Saint Artifact. Within the forbidden grounds of the Tyrant's Blade School, the 30-meter-tall wave-breaking blade hovered 3 feet above the ground with the tip pointed downwards and the hilt pointed upwards. It emitted a hazy glow. This glow was not like the glow of an ordinary jewel. Instead, it was a blade light that contained immense power. Vaguely, an extremely domineering blade, qi, circulated around the wave-breaking blade. The founding ancestor of the Tyrant's Blade School, Guihai Yidao, sat on the hilt of the wave-breaking blade in simple robes. He was completely enveloped by the terrifying glow from the blade, so he was unharmed. It seemed like the wave-breaking blade was protecting him. Powerful and pure energy constantly surged out from the wave-breaking saber. In the end, Guihai Yidao absorbed it like a whale sucking in water. His body was like a bottomless pit. No matter how much energy entered his body, it was like a rock sinking into the ocean. It would never be filled. The Emperor armaments of protector clans had always been known as forbidden weapons. They could not be touched unless absolutely necessary because they were just too powerful. They required several Holy Emperor experts to work together to barely control them, and they would even suffer a backlash from the Emperor armament. Even Holy Emperor experts would become heavily injured, which was more than enough to demonstrate the terror of the Emperor armament. No one had ever absorbed the energy from the Emperor armament to cultivate. Even during the glorious era when the Holy Emperor experts were born, they never dared to do so. Guihai Yidao was the only one who dared to do so. As the energy from the Emperor armament was constantly absorbed, Guihai Yidao's presence skyrocketed at basically every moment. It was so fast that it was shocking. His strength increased extremely quickly, so he did not need to comprehend the mysteries of the world. Recovering his memories was equivalent to recovering his former cultivation level. A few figures flew over from afar before kneeling outside politely in the end. They were the great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School. All of them were dejected and gloomy. Founding ancestor, the disciples have returned. It's because of our incompetence that we were unable to retrieve the saint's fruit, an old man said humbly. He was extremely unwilling to accept this. Guihai Yidao slowly opened his eyes. His gaze seemed extremely calm right now, but a sharpness was hidden deep within. It was like a blade that was filled with sharpness and a hint of dominance. He directly looked in the direction of the death nest, as if he wanted to see through space and into the distant world. It's fine. The saint's fruit isn't very important. It can indeed allow people to become emperors, but you can still break through to Holy Emperor without it, Guihai Yidao said in an extremely calm voice. But Ancestor, reaching Saint Emperor is already extremely difficult. There's a gap in the Saint Emperors of our protector clans. We only have one Saint Emperor on the Tianyuan continent right now, and he only managed to reach Saint Emperor by forging a different path of cultivation through his own willpower," said a great elder bitterly. Guihai Idao glanced past them. The great elders all shivered and sighed under his gaze. At that moment, they all felt like they had been locked onto by an extremely sharp blade. They actually felt a sliver of fear from the bottom of their hearts. The great elders of the Tyrant's Blade School were utterly astounded. At the same time, they felt even more admiration and fear for Guihai Idao. They knew that although Guihai Idao had only become a Saint King recently, his true strength was no longer something that could be judged from his appearance. "I can make you emperors in 100 years at most, and a few decades at least. You've all been able to wait for this day," Guihai Idao nonchalantly said. However, his calm words were like a bolt from the blue in the ears of the Tyrant's Blade School's supreme elders. All of them felt that it was inconceivable. "Founding ancestor, all of you are dismissed. Properly consolidate your foundations in the past few years." Guihai Idao interrupted the great elder. "Yes, founding ancestor." Even though the great elders were doubtful, they did not dare to disobey Guihai Idao's orders. They all retreated politely. After they left, Guihai Idao looked in the direction of the death nest again. He murmured, "Just what is Mo Tianyin trying to do? He's actually gone to such great lengths to create the death nest. Even I cannot help but feel admiration for his methods." Chapter 1170. Jianchen remained in the artifact space within Changyang Prefecture. In his eyes, Changyang Prefecture was no longer a safe place. It had become extremely dangerous. Staying there was equivalent to being trapped in the space. Without the corresponding secret technique, it was impossible for him to open the world gate. On this day, Changyang Prefecture became especially quiet. Many clansmen locked themselves up in secret rooms to cultivate diligently. They could clearly sense the abundant energy of the world outside rapidly gather in a few mountains or a few buildings. From afar, there were only a few scattered juniors cultivating in the surroundings or hiding in remote places, using battle techniques against extremely tough walls. Outside the majestic ancestral hall in the center, a seemingly old but upright figure suddenly appeared. His aura was restrained, and he looked like an ordinary old man. He was one of the 7 great elders of Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Qingyin. Changyang Qingyin silently appeared at the entrance of the ancestral hall. His deep eyes shone brightly. He first looked around before looking at the mountain where Jianchen cultivated. After a slight hesitation, a gleam of light flashed through his eyes. With a movement, he silently flew over there with great speed. In the blink of an eye, Changyang Qingyin arrived outside the cave. He calmly looked at the barrier Jianchen had cast down at the entrance of the cave as a mocking smile appeared on his face. Afterward, he changed his hand seals and used a wondrous secret technique. He actually passed through the barrier silently like he had teleported and entered the cave. He did not touch the barrier at all. After all, Jianchen's comprehension of the mysteries of the world remained at the level of saint rulers. In front of Changyang Qingyin, who had grasped many secret techniques and had reached great perfection as the Holy Emperor, Jianchen was basically useless. In the gloomy cave, the fist-sized saint artifact hovered in the air with a faint golden light. It dispersed quite a lot of the darkness in the cave. Changyang Qingyin stood before the saint artifact with his hands behind his back. He stared at the artifact in interest and frowned slightly. He murmured to himself, "I never thought that this brat would be so smart. He's actually hiding in the tower to heal. He's basically cutting off any chance of me obtaining the saint's fruit from him like that." Changyang Qingyin was unwilling to accept this. He constantly circled around the saint artifact as his face gradually sank. He murmured, "This tower is extremely tough. Only Holy Emperor level experts can destroy it. I can't do anything to him while he's hiding in there. What should I do? Jianqin sat on the roof of one of the majestic halls in the center of the artifact space. His face was extremely ugly. The saint artifact had already accepted him as its master, so he had established an extremely obscure mental connection with it long ago. Although he was currently in the saint artifact, he was extremely clear about the situation outside through the artifact spirit's assistance. Jianqin knew all of Changyang Qingyan's actions, like the back of his hand the moment he entered the cave. I never thought that Changyang Qingyan would be in such a hurry, coming to find me so quickly. I wonder just how many people are still thinking about the saint's fruit. Jianqin coldly replied. His gaze was extremely cold. He knew that if he had not hidden in the artifact space beforehand, he probably would have been killed by Changyang Qingyan already. Changyang Qingyan paced around outside for a while before clenching his teeth. He coldly said, "Since that brat is hiding in the tower, I might as well take it away. I'll slowly think of a way to get out of here in the future." Just when Changyang Qingyan wanted to take the saint artifact away, his face suddenly changed. He glanced outside the cave before arriving at the edge of the wall in a flash. He silently fused with the rock and vanished. Before long, one of the 7 great elders, Changyang Qingjuri, arrived. Just like Changyang Qingyan, he used a secret technique to pass through the barrier and enter the cave. He lingered around the saint artifact for quite a while before his face changed in the end. He sensed that someone had arrived, so he immediately used a secret technique to hide himself in the rock. The third person to enter the cave was one of the 7 great elders, Changyang Yuan Zhenghua. They all knew many secret techniques, so Jianqin's barrier was completely useless against them. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua also frowned when he saw the saint artifact hovering in the cave. However, at this moment, 2 powerful presences appeared in the distance. Changyang Zuyun Shao and Changyang Zhu Shao left the ancestral hall at the same time, directly flying toward the mountain where Jianqin was healing. Unlike the 3 people before, the 2 of them did not conceal themselves at all. They swaggered over, surprising all the clansmen in Changyang Prefecture to raise their heads. Their eyes were filled with respect. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua was surprised inside the cave. It was already too late for him to leave, so he did the same thing as Changyang Qingyun and Changyang Qingjuri. He used a secret technique to fuse with the surrounding rock and conceal his presence. Changyang Zhu Shao and Changyang Zhu Yun Shao arrived outside the cave at the same time. They hovered 10 meters away from the entrance as they stared at the cave deeply. They did not step in. Looks like Xiangtian is still healing inside. I wonder when he'll be able to make a full recovery, Changyang Zhu Shao nonchalantly said. Xiangtian is also a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, so he possesses powerful Radiant Saint force. His wounds may be very heavy, but I think he'll make a full recovery very quickly with Radiant Saint force. Great-grandfather, why don't you return to the ancestral hall to rest first? I'll wait here for Xiangtian to come out, said Changyang Zuyun Shao. Changyang Zhu Shao hesitated slightly before nodding. All right, Yun Shao, you can stay here. I'll return to the ancestral hall first. Changyang Zhu Shao turned around and left while Changyang Zhu Yun Shao stayed behind. He found a flat spot outside the cave and sat down. 3 meters in front of him was the barrier that Jianqin had cast down at the entrance of the cave. Jianqin murmured as he sat on the roof of a hall within the artifact space. Of the 7 great elders of the Changyang Prefecture, 3 of them have already tried to attack me while I was healing. Fortunately, Changyang Zuyun Shao and Changyang Zhu Shao appeared in time, or the 3 of them would have taken the saint artifact away. Right now, Changyang Zuyun Shao is personally standing guard outside so that the people in the cave won't dare to do anything. Is he doing this because he already knew that the 3 of them would be here, so he's keeping them busy, or is it just a coincidence? But I still can't trust any of them right now. Jianqin lowered his head and thought for a while before moving. He silently vanished from the artifact space and arrived in the gloomy cave when he reappeared. He could not stay here any longer, as it was very easy for him to fall into a trap. Instead of that, it was better for him to appear before them openly. Perhaps they would be wary of him and not attack him so easily. Jianqin stowed the saint artifact away and made his way out of the cave like nothing had happened. When he discovered Changyang Zhu Yunxiao sitting outside, a sliver of surprise immediately appeared on his face. He asked, "Great-grandfather, why are you here? Do you have something urgent that you need me for?" Changyang Zhu Yunxiao stood up and studied Jianqin. He smiled. "Xiangtian, looks like you've completely recovered. Come with me to the ancestral hall. I just happen to have some things to discuss with you." Jianqin nodded before flying toward the floating piece of land with Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. However, when they approached the majestic divine hall in the center, Jianqin stopped and said, "Great-grandfather, the scenery in the garden over there is quite nice. Why don't we go there and talk?" With that, Jianqin did not wait for Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's agreement. He directly flew toward the nearby garden. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao stared at Jianqin's back and did not become displeased at all. Instead, he faintly smiled and softly murmured, "This kid is pretty cautious." Afterward, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao flew off in the direction of the garden. Before long, Changyang Zhu Xiao, Changyang Yuanwuji, and Changyang Qingyinfeng emerged from the ancestral hall. They all gathered in a pavilion in the garden. "Haha, Xiangtian has done far too well this time. He actually managed to obtain the saint's fruit in front of so many experts, and he even brought it back to the clan in perfect condition. That's right. Xiangtian's performance has been far too outstanding this time. He has obtained an extremely precious saint's fruit for our Changyang prefecture. With the fruit, the strength of our Changyang prefecture will definitely skyrocket. Before long, our Changyang prefecture will have a holy emperor. Xiangtian has done us a great service." Wrong. It's not just one holy emperor, but two. We've all witnessed Xiangtian's talent. He'll probably be able to break through to become a holy emperor through his own abilities in less than 100 years. Changyang Yuanwuji and Changyang Qingyinfeng endlessly praised Jianqin as soon as they arrived. They constantly praised him. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao and Changyang Zhu Xiao did not say anything as they sat on the stone bench. Their faces were emotionless, making it impossible to tell what they were feeling. Jianqin's face became rather ugly. From what Changyang Yuanwuji and Changyang Qingyinfeng had said, they did not treat the saint's fruit as something that belonged to him at all. Instead, they treated it as something that belonged to their clan. "Qingyan, why haven't Jury and Zhenghua come out yet?" "I've already notified them," Changyang Qingyinfeng suddenly asked. As soon as he finished speaking, Changyang Qingyun, Changyang Qinjury, and Changyang Yuan Zhenghua appeared at the entrance of the ancestral hall. They flew over together. Chapter 1171. The great elders of the Changyang prefecture sat on the stone benches in the pavilion. Many of them faintly smiled and were unable to hide their joy. Only Jianqin was in a very bad mood because he knew that what they were about to discuss would definitely be related to the saint's fruit. Changyang Qingyun looked around and gently coughed. He said, "Since everyone's here, let's get to the main topic. I believe everyone knows what we're going to discuss next, so I won't beat around the bush. May I ask what everyone thinks about the distribution of the saint's fruit?" Basically, all the experts on the continent know that our Changyang prefecture has obtained the saint's fruit. In order to prevent a few experts from being tempted to attack our Changyang prefecture, we need to make the saint's fruit work as soon as possible. Otherwise, once it's taken away by someone else, our losses will be extremely severe, Changyang Qingyinfeng righteously said. That's right. And the appearance of the saint's fruit this time has even led to a fight between the Path Lord of Carnal Desires and the 3 emperors of the Beast God continent. If the 4 of them attack our Changyang prefecture without any regard for the consequences, we'll be in deep trouble, Changyang Yuan Wuji said sternly. But there are 7 of us here, and only 1 saint's fruit. Who should we give it to? Changyang Yuan Zhenghua said after some thought. The light in his eyes flickered with uncertainty. Who else can we give it to? Aside from Qin Yin, is there anyone else in our Changyang prefecture who has reached great perfection as the Holy Emperor? In my opinion, the saint's fruit should be consumed by Qin Yin. Only then can the saint's fruit be used to its fullest potential. Changyang Qin Yinfeng loudly said. Qin Yin has already reached great perfection for many years. He's only a single step away from becoming a saint emperor. Using the saint's fruit on Qin Yin would instead be a waste. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua said emotionlessly. Changyang Qin Yin's face changed slightly. Before he could say anything else, Changyang Qin Yinfeng suddenly stood up and struck the stone table before him with a palm strike. The extremely tough stone table was reduced to dust as he furiously said, Zhenghua, what are you trying to say? Are you saying that Qin Yin is useless? Changyang Yuan Zhenghua faintly smiled and said, Brother Yinfeng, please don't be angry. Qin Yin is the only great perfection expert among us. He's the strongest person in our Changyang prefecture. I just think that if we use the saint's fruit on Qin Yin, we won't be able to use it to its fullest potential. Zhenghua, Changyang Qin Yinfeng's to speak. Of course. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua confidently smiled and said, Brother Qin Yin only lacks an opportunity to break through to Holy Emperor. If we give the saint's fruit to someone else, Brother Qin Yin will be able to comprehend the phenomenon of the world when they break through to Saint Emperor. That way, wouldn't 2 holy emperors have already appeared from a single saint's fruit? You make it sound so easy. If becoming a holy emperor was really that easy, there wouldn't have been a lack of holy emperors in our protector clans. Zhenghua, it looks like you probably want to obtain the saint's fruit for yourself. Changyang Qingjuri coldly rebutted Changyang Yuan Zhenghua. The great elders of Changyang Prefecture argued intensely. Their faces were flushed with anger, and they were on the verge of fighting. None of them noticed Jianqin's pallid face. Everyone. At this moment, Changyang Zuyinshao, who had remained silent the entire time, finally spoke. He calmly said, You only care about the distribution of the saint's fruit, but you don't even think about who obtained it. The saint's fruit doesn't belong to any of us. It belongs to Xiangtian. That's right. Xiangtian's contributions to the battle for the saint's fruit are undeniable. However, if we hadn't interfered in the end, how would he have been able to escape? At the same time, Xiangtian's talent is unprecedented. He hasn't even reached 100 years of age, so his future is limitless. If he uses heavenly resources to become a holy emperor with such talent, it might not be a good thing for him. It's extremely likely that he won't be able to make any more progress after becoming a holy emperor, said Changyang Qingjuri. Out of all of us, the person with the greatest right to distribute the saint's fruit is none other than Xiangtian. Xiangtian, tell me what you think. Changyang Zushao spoke as well. He was very interested in the saint's fruit as well. After all, it was a sacred item that belonged to the holy emperor. Jianqin slowly glanced past the 7 of them and said, Great elders, we've all been arguing so intensely today, so why don't we talk about the saint's fruit some other time to avoid damaging our relationship? No, we can't keep the saint's fruit. Let's deal with it as soon as possible. I'm worried about an invasion, a great elder firmly said. Jianqin's heart sank. He knew that it was impossible to keep stalling, so he just made up his mind and said, To be honest, the saint's fruit already has an owner when I obtained it. The owner is not me, nor is it anyone else here. Is it the 3 magical beasts? No, the saint's fruit is a sacred item of the humans. It can't be consumed by magical beasts. Changyang Qinyan's reaction was the greatest. He suddenly stood up and glared at Jianqin. Wrong, it's not them. It's the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Senior Tianjian. I originally went to pick the saint's fruit for Senior Tianjian, Jianqin said. He had no way out now. The garden fell silent. Everyone was stunned by Jianqin's words. No one had thought that Jianqin would actually give the saint's fruit to the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. No, you definitely can't. A while later, a bellow suddenly rang out. Changyang Qinyin furiously glared at Jianqin and said, "The saint's fruit only appears once every 40,000 years. How can we give something so valuable to an outsider? Jianqin, as a clansman of the Changyang Prefecture, you should consider the clan first. The saint's fruit is just far too important to the clan. What were you doing when I was fighting against the countless, vengeful spirits of the Holy Emperor? What were you doing when Ruijin Heiyu and I fended off the encirclement of so many human experts? I obtained the saint's fruit by risking my life and blood, so logically speaking it should belong to me. How I distribute it has nothing to do with you." Jianqin's attitude became firm as well. He would never hand over the saint's fruit. The great elders of Changyang Prefecture all became extremely sunken. Even Changyang Zhu Xiao and Changyang Zhu Yinxiao frowned. They could accept it if the saint's fruit was used by the people of Changyang Prefecture, but they could not forgive Jianqin for giving it to an outsider. Jianqin looked at Changyang Zhu Yinxiao and said, "Great-grandfather, please send me away. It looks like it's no longer suitable for me to stay in the Protector clan." Changyang Zhu Yinxiao hesitated before nodding. "Xiangtian, you're a member of our Zhu branch. You're our pride. No matter what happens, as long as you don't go against our principles and do anything that harms the human race, our Zhu branch will stand by your side." With that, Changyang Zhu Yinxiao began to use a secret technique in an attempt to open a world gate for Jianqin to leave. "Hold on." Changyang Qinyin struck out with his palm, causing the space there to violently tremble. He interrupted Changyang Zhu Yinxiao's actions and coldly stared at Jianqin. He growled, "You can leave, but you must leave the saint's fruit behind. I don't care how much effort you put into obtaining the saint's fruit, but as a member of the Protector clan, you must place the clan's interests above all else." "I won't leave the saint's fruit behind." Jianqin's voice became cold as well. His anger boiled inside. "Since you won't hand over the saint's fruit, I can only take it myself." A gleam of light flashed through Changyang Qinyan's eyes. He arrived before Jianqin in a flash and directly reached for the space ring on his finger. He wanted to take it away from Jianqin. Jianqin was already prepared. The moment Changyang Qinyan moved, the Emperor armament appeared in his right hand. Destructive chaotic force surged out from the Emperor armament as he swung it at Changyang Qinyan's hand with lightning speed. The strike was fast, accurate, and vicious. It was a full-powered strike that Jianqin had been secretly accumulating power for a very long time. Changyang Qinyan was surprised. He had never expected Jianqin to react so quickly. However, he was still a veteran, so a vast amount of saint force immediately surged out from his hand. His hand that originally reached for Jianqin's space ring changed direction and struck the Emperor armament from the side. Bang! With a heavy sound, the Emperor armament gently vibrated. Jianqin's attack had been cleverly nullified by Changyang Qinyan. However, Jianqin's attack did not stop because of that. With a twist of his wrist, the Emperor armament danced in the air, cleverly nullifying the remaining force. Afterward, it turned into a black streak of light and stabbed toward Changyang Qinyan with unbelievable speed. Changyang Qinyan remained calm. He extended a finger and condensed tremendous amounts of world force into a single strand of energy, which collided with the tip of the Emperor armament. Following an explosion, the pavilion in the garden was torn apart. Violent energy shock waves shot out in all directions from the center of the battle, destroying the beautiful garden into a mess. Jianqin could not help but take 3 steps back, leaving behind 3 deep footprints in the ground. Changyang Qinyan remained where he was without moving. "Your strength is indeed not weak outside, but it's still quite lacking if you want to fight me," Changyang Qingyun coldly said. Jianqin gripped the emperor armament tightly in his right hand as his presence became more and more powerful. Although the disparity in strength between him and Changyang Qingyun was very large, he was not afraid. Leave behind the saint's fruit, and I'll let you leave, Changyang Qingyun coldly said. He was determined to obtain the saint's fruit. Chapter 1172. The great elders of the Yuan and Qing branches all retreated a certain distance at the same time, expressing their stance. They did not want to get involved. At the same time, they stopped the clansmen who were rushing over through communication techniques. Qingyun, you're an ancestor after all. Aren't you going a little too far by threatening a descendant like this? Changyang Zuxiao growled. He and Changyang Zuyunxiao remained where they were and did not move. You're all senior members of the clan, so you know a few of the clan's rules. He asked for it. Changyang Qingyun's face sunk, and his voice became icy cold. He had already reached great perfection as a holy emperor many years ago. Although he was only a step away from becoming a holy emperor, he had not touched upon that domain at all. He knew that it was impossible for him to reach emperor in his life, so he was determined to obtain the saint's fruit. Of course, we remember the clan's rules, but Xiangtian is different from the other clansmen. He did not grow up in our protector clan. Instead, he only joined us recently from an external branch. At the same time, he's one of the great elders of Changyang Prefecture, so his status is extraordinary. He cannot be treated like an ordinary clansman. Coupled with Xiangtian's outstanding abilities, I believe Xiangtian should enjoy some special privileges, said Changyang Zuxiao. Changyang Zuyunxiao also walked over. He stood before Jianqin and blocked Changyang Qingyun. He said, most importantly, Xiangtian obtained the saint's fruit with the assistance of 3 powerful friends. On the other hand, our Changyang Prefecture did not contribute much, so I believe we have no right to take the saint's fruit from him. No one has ever broken the clan's rules in all these years. No matter how astonishing Xiangtian's talent is, he's still a member of our Changyang Prefecture. He needs to follow the clan's rules. Changyang Qingyun refused to back down. He was determined. Jianqin became angered when he heard that. He called out, if that's the case, I, Jianqin, will withdraw from Changyang Prefecture right now. From now on, your protector clan, Changyang Prefecture, has nothing to do with me, Jianqin. Changyang Qingyun's gaze suddenly sharpened as he viciously stared at Jianqin. He growled, my Changyang Prefecture is one of the 10 protector clans of the Tianyuan continent. Do you think you can leave just because you want to? You've already broken the rules of the clan with what you've said. I'll capture you right now and take you to the ancestral hall so that the disciplinary elders can judge you. With a flash, Changyang Qingyun circled around Changyang Zuyunxiao. Energy surged from his right hand, forming a huge web that shot toward Jianqin. A sliver of anger flashed through Changyang Zuyunxiao's eyes. In that critical moment, he directly threw a punch at Changyang Qingyun. Powerful saint force pulsed from his fist, causing the space that was much tougher than the outside world to ripple. Changyang Qingyun remained composed. He gently swatted out with his left hand, easily nullifying the powerful saint force from Changyang Zuyunxiao's fist. His right hand continued to envelop Jianqin with the web of energy. Jianqin's presence became extremely powerful as battle intent surged from him. His gaze was as sharp as a sword. He showed no fear at all as he faced the Holy Emperor at great perfection. His emperor armament was wrapped in a layer of chaotic force as it stabbed toward Changyang Qingyun with great speed. You overestimate yourself. Disdain appeared on Changyang Qingyun's face. The web in his right hand split into 2. One of them wrapped around Jianqin's emperor armament while the other remained the same, continuing toward Jianqin. Right now, Jianqin's emperor armament seemed to be wrapped in a layer of bandages. Even the light from the chaotic force had been drowned out. Jianqin did not panic at all. With a sudden jerk of his arm, the Emperor armament violently trembled as well. Slivers of black light broke through Changyang Qinyan's energy suppression, and they became more and more powerful. The chaotic force on the Emperor armament quickly broke free from Changyang Qinyan's restraints. At this moment, the other web had already descended above Genshin's head. Just when Genshin was about to be trapped, a golden light flashed from his forehead. It turned into a 3-meter-tall golden tower. The tower hovered in the air and shone with a golden light as it hovered above Genshin's head. The tip of the tower blocked the energy web, preventing it from descending. The net of energy enveloped the pagoda, firmly trapping it. The Emperor armament finally broke free from its restraints after this delay. Its black light surged into the sky as a destructive presence radiated into the distance. Many experts in seclusion were alarmed. They all opened their eyes and emerged from seclusion. Swish! The sword tore through the air. Its powerful energy, which seemed to possess enough power to obliterate the world, left behind a thin, black crack in the space that was much tougher than the outside world. It stabbed toward Changyang Qinyan with an unstoppable force. The sword moved so quickly that it was impossible to capture with the naked eye. All that could be seen was a flash of black light as the sword arrived before Changyang Qinyan's forehead at an unbelievable speed. The space between the eyebrows was the most fatal spot for any expert. It was the location of their life because that was where their soul resided. Once the soul was damaged, even Saint Kings at great perfection would be fatally injured or even directly die. Genshin directly stabbed his sword toward Changyang Qinyan's forehead. He aimed for his opponent's vitals as soon as he struck, showing no mercy at all. Changyang Qinyan's face sank. Heavy killing intent leaked out from his eyes. Just when the Emperor armament was only 3 inches away from his forehead, the space around Genshin suddenly froze. His body remained in the posture of thrusting out the sword as he was firmly frozen by the frozen space. Even the Emperor armament that stabbed toward Changyang Qinyan's forehead came to a halt, forcefully stopping 3 inches away from Genshin's forehead. It was unable to advance any further. However, this situation only lasted for a few seconds before the frozen space was shattered by Genshin's chaotic force. However, just when Genshin recovered his mobility, Changyang Qinyan had already arrived beside him. He yelled out, "You have committed an unforgivable crime for daring to kill a great elder. I, Changyang Qinyan, represent the highest elder of the Changyang Prefecture to punish you." Changyang Qinyan directly sent a palm strike toward Genshin. Energy surged from his hand, and as he struck out, it seemed to envelop the entire region. It caused the space around Genshin to become viscous, as if he had fallen into a swamp. Genshin was stern. His eyes were cold. With a thought, the saint artifact immediately shrank to the size of a fist and emerged from a crack in the net. It flew over as a golden streak of light and blocked in front of Genshin like a shield. Chapter 1173. Genshin uncontrollably staggered back over 10 steps before he managed to nullify the powerful force. Just as he stabilized himself, Changyang Qinyan's second palm strike aggressively shot toward him. He used his full strength again, showing no mercy at all. He locked down the space around Genshin, trapping him there once again. The great perfection of the Holy Emperor was the apex of the Holy Emperor realm. He was only a step away from the Holy Emperor, so he was infinitely close to the level of a Holy Emperor. With his strength at the great perfection of the Holy Emperor realm, Changyang Qinyan possessed an absolute advantage over Genshin, who was only at the 7th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor realm. At this moment, Genshin no longer had the time to break through the frozen space. He could only watch as Changyang Qinyan's powerful palm strike rapidly approached him. Chaotic force surged within him as he pushed the defenses of his chaotic body to the limit. He planned on forcefully enduring the palm strike. At this moment, an old but upright figure suddenly appeared before Genshin. He was the person with the highest status in the zoo branch, Changyang Zushao. Energy surged from his body as tremendous world force coiled around him. Although his tremendous presence was not as great as Changyang Qinyan's, it was not much weaker. He then struck out with a palm strike at Changyang Qinyan with lightning speed with invisible world force, meeting Changyang Qinyan's palm strike. Boom! With a great boom, terrifying ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings as a terrifying gust of wind. It caused the entire floating continent to violently tremble as the energy of the world surged. Changyang Qinyan remained as still as a mountain. Standing where he was, Changyang Zushao gently trembled. The ground where he stood sank slightly. Changyang Zushao, what are you doing? Changyang Qinyan glared at Changyang Zushao. Changyang Zushao emotionlessly stared at Changyang Qinyan. He said emotionlessly, "Qinyan, why are you so harsh on a junior? Aren't you going a little too far? Moreover, Xiangtian is still a great elder of our Changyang prefecture." Great elder? Humph. Which great elder of our Changyang prefecture doesn't think about the clan's development? He may be a great elder, but he's selfish. He doesn't care about the clan at all. What's the point of having a great elder like him? From now on, as the greatest elder of the Changyang prefecture, I declare that Changyang Zuxiangtian is no longer a great elder, Changyang Qinyan coldly said. Removing a great elder requires the 7 of us to agree. Qinyan, you don't have the authority to do so alone, Changyang Zushao said. There's no need for you to remove me. I, Jianchen, am no longer a member of your protector clan of Changyang prefecture. From today onwards, I have nothing to do with your protector clan of Changyang prefecture, Jianchen loudly declared after breaking free from the restraints of space. At this moment, a large number of clansmen from Changyang prefecture had gathered in the distance. The disturbance from the battle in the garden had alarmed everyone in the inner clan. Many people hurried over from all directions and hovered in the air, observing the situation from very far away. They had all been stopped by the other great elders through communication techniques, so none of them dared to come over. Changyang Qinyan's face was filled with killing intent. He made his way around Changyang Zushao and headed straight for Jianchen. Qinyan, Xiangtian is a member of my Zhu branch. You can't bully him like this. Changyang Zushao blocked Changyang Qinyan and clashed with him several dozen times with lightning-like speed. Changyang Qinyan became furious after being blocked time and time again. He yelled out, Changyang Zushao, since you insist on protecting him, don't blame me for not showing you any mercy. Let me see just how much you've improved in the past few years. Changyang Qinyan and Changyang Zushao began an intense battle. They fought from the ground to the sky, and then from the sky to the mountains in the distance. Birds and beasts were alarmed as powerful ripples of energy caused the space there to violently tremble. Many cracks constantly expanded, healed and ripped apart. Several mountains collapsed from their battle. I never thought that Zhu Zhao's strength had already reached the 9th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. He's about to reach great perfection. It won't be easy for Qinyan to defeat Zhu Zhao, murmured Changyang Qinjuri. The clansmen from Changyang prefecture all stared at the battle between Changyang Qinyan and Changyang Zushao in panic. None of them knew what was happening. Many of them felt uneasy when they saw the great elders of the clan fight so intensely. They all began to discuss among themselves. Jury Yunfeng, the 2 of you helped me capture the criminal of the clan. Changyang Qinyan's voice rang out from afar. The clansmen, who had no idea what was going on, immediately fell into an uproar when they heard what Changyang Qinyan had said. Various discussions rang out in all directions, but most of them were dissatisfied with Jianchen. Jianchen was so young that his actual age was not even a fraction of the age of many of them, yet he had managed to climb up to the position of great elder, surpassing all of them. This had already made many of the old people dissatisfied, but they did not dare to vent their dissatisfaction because of the suppression from the great elders. Yet now, Jian Qin had caused Changyang Zhu Shao and Changyang Qingyun to fight because he had violated the rules of the clan. This immediately made the people who were dissatisfied with Jian Qin feel no fear at all. Various complaints rang out incessantly. Changyang Qingjuri and Changyang Qingyunfeng were all from the same branch. Without any hesitation, they immediately charged toward Jian Qin after hearing what Changyang Qingyun had said. Changyang Zhu Yunshao snorted coldly and went up to receive them, blocking Changyang Qingyunfeng. Yunshao, looks like you want to fight me as well. However, your strength may have increased, reaching the 5th heavenly layer, but you're still not my opponent. It's best if you don't interfere in this matter, just in case we end up hurting each other, said Changyang Qingyunfeng. You've already come to bully a member of my Zhu branch in such an unbridled manner, yet you want me to not interfere. What a joke! Changyang Zhu Yunshao stood firm and did not waver at all. If that's the case, there's nothing more for me to say. Changyang Qingyunfeng's voice turned cold as he began to fight Changyang Zhu Yunshao. On the other side, Changyang Qingjuri was also fighting against Jian Qin. However, Changyang Qingjuri was only at the 5th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, so he was not Jian Qin's opponent at all. After just a few exchanges, Jian Qin had severed his left arm. He could not help but cry out from the pain. How dare you attack a great elder? This is unforgivable. Wuji, Zhenghua, the two of you, capture the traitor of the clan. Changyang Qingyun, who was fighting against Changyang Zhu Shao, discovered the situation on the other side and called out in exasperation. He was furious inside. Changyang Yuan Wuji and Changyang Yuan Zhenghua hesitated for a while, but they still attacked Jian Qin in the end. Changyang Yuan Wuji was the strongest of the two, having reached the 8th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua was the weakest, remaining at the 4th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. Jian Qin's pressure immediately increased when the two people from the Yuan branch struck out together. He fell into a disadvantage very soon, especially in terms of strength. Jian Qin found it rather difficult to deal with Changyang Yuan Wuji, who had reached the 8th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. People of the Yuan and Qing branches, you've gone too far! Changyang Zhu Yunshao angrily roared at the sky as he fought against Changyang Qingyunfeng. A violent presence radiated from his body as his hair and clothes fluttered despite the lack of wind. The invisible world force in the surroundings rapidly gathered toward him. Changyang Zhu Yunshao raised his head and looked at the sky. He raised his right hand high above his head as he gave off a violent, domineering aura, as if he wanted to challenge the heavens. A ball of faint white light suddenly appeared on his fist and rapidly intensified. In the blink of an eye, it became a scorching ball of white light. It seemed like a miniature sun, illuminating the entire world. The founding god's fist. It's the founding god's fist. Changyang Zhu Yunshao, why? You're actually using the founding god's fist against us. Changyang Qing Yunfeng paled in fright and immediately retreated. He quickly moved his hands through the air, using a secret technique to create layers of defenses in front of him. At the same time, Saint Force surged out from his body, condensing into a suit of armor. The expressions of Changyang Qingyun and the two great elders from the Yuan branch changed slightly as well. They feared the founding god's fist very much. This was an extremely tough and ferocious fist technique created by a talented ancestor of the Zhu branch. It was an extremely powerful Saint Tier battle skill, and it had reached the peak of Saint Tier battle skills. It had touched on the edge of another domain. Chapter 1174. Yun Shao, you're actually using the founding god's fist against a member of your own clan. Do you have any idea what you're doing right now? Changyang Qingyun furiously bellowed out as he fought against Changyang Zhu Shao. However, his words were unable to stop Changyang Zhu Yunshao. The founding god's fist was a powerful battle skill that touched on the edge of another domain. Even with Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's strength, he needed some time to charge it up. The surroundings suddenly began to churn. As the founding god's fist charged up, the abundant energy of the world and world force in the independent space of Chanyang Prefecture began to surge, causing a storm of energy to kick up. Fallen leaves were blown into the air as dust filled the air, causing the floating continent to gently tremble. The space around Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao violently trembled and violently twisted. Chanyang Zhu Yunxiao's body flickered in and out of existence, twisting like a curve from time to time. An extremely powerful energy had already condensed around his fist. Transcendence, impasse barrier. As Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's opponent, Changyang Qin Yinfeng bellowed out as well. He also used an ancient secret technique to control spatial force, creating a spatial barrier between him and Changyang Zhu Yunxiao. It was as if he had separated the two of them into two different worlds. Suddenly, a tremendous pressure suddenly appeared. It was so powerful that even the saint rulers watching from afar could not help but tremble. Many of those below Saint Ruler directly collapsed to the ground, while some of the weaker people vomited blood. Just the pressure alone was enough to crush their organs, causing them to become heavily injured. The pressure was unprecedentedly powerful, much more powerful than Saint Tier battle skills. It was extremely rare on the Tianyuan continent, where only experts like the Holy Emperor could resist it. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao bathed in a dazzling light, making him seem like a god who had descended to the mortal world. His might was inviolable. His fist moved, slowly striking toward Changyang Qin Yinfeng. His fist did not strike out quickly. It could be said to be extremely slow, but as he struck out, it seemed to trigger some mysterious and powerful energy in the world. There was actually a deep rumble of thunder in the air. With one punch, the wind and clouds moved and all laws fell silent. This punch seemed to have replaced the world, becoming the only thing in the world. It was the most dazzling focal point of the world. This punch seemed to carry all the power in the world. It transformed into a ferocious dragon that charged forward with an unstoppable momentum. This was the founding divine fist. It had already reached the peak of Saint Tier battle skills, and it had already touched the edge of another realm. It was about to break away from the level of Saint Tier battle skills. The fist collided with Changyang Qin Yunfeng's spatial barrier first. This was because the spatial barrier he had set up using an ancient secret technique was actually unable to stop it at all. It was easily pierced through by the punch, causing the entire space to tremble violently. A part of the space had already shattered, turning into darkness. However, it quickly repaired itself. It shattered the spatial barrier. The founding divine fist did not slow down at all. It continued toward Changyang Qin Yinfeng like a hot knife through butter. Changyang Qin Yinfeng became extremely stern. He had already been locked onto by the founding divine fist. As a powerful battle skill that was about to surpass the Saint Tier, it was not easy to dodge. All he could do was forcefully endure it. There was no way for him to escape. The founding divine fist struck over with an earth-shaking momentum. It came in contact with the layers of defenses created by Changyang Qin Yinfeng through a secret technique, destroying all obstructions and striking Changyang Qin Yinfeng mercilessly. Spurt! Changyang Qin Yinfeng immediately vomited blood. He was blown away, smashing through several mountains along the way. In the end, he sank into a mountain and remained motionless for quite some time. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, I won't let you off easily for being so heavy-handed against a great elder of the clan. Changyang Qin Yin furiously bellowed as his presence rapidly climbed. He began to use his full strength without holding back at all. He knocked Changyang Zhu Xiao away with a single palm strike before flying toward Changyang Zhu Yunxiao as a streak of light. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao shone with an abnormally dazzling light. The might of the founding divine fist had yet to disperse after the strike. He stared at Changyang Qingyun in interest and showed no fear at all. He then threw a punch at Changyang Qingyun from afar. With a single punch, all laws fell silent. This punch seemed to have transformed into the only thing in the world, and it brought with it an inconceivable force. Changyang Qingyun remained emotionless as his gaze was cold. Although Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's founding divine fist was about to surpass Saint Tier battle skills, it was still limited by his strength. It was not enough to pose a threat to him. Soul-crushing palm. Changyang Qingyun coldly snorted. He received the founding divine fist with a palm strike, and the pressure of the world descended. This was also a Saint Tier battle skill, except it was not as powerful as the founding divine fist. It had been used by Changyang Qingyun at great perfection in an instant. The two Saint Tier battle skills collided in the air and erupted with a great boom. Terrifying ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, almost shattering the space there. The 18 divine halls in the sky became even more consolidated, stabilizing the surroundings. The founding divine fist and the soul-crushing palm were on par with each other. They canceled each other out and dispersed at the same time. Although the difference in strength between the two was just too great, the difference in battle skills could be completely made up for. Before Changyang Zhu Yunxiao could recover, Changyang Qingyun arrived before him in a flash. He threw a palm strike at Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, passing through the eternal light from the founding divine fist and landing on his chest. Spurt! Blood sprayed from Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's mouth. His face immediately paled as he was blown far away by Changyang Qingyun's palm strike. He was heavily injured. Changyang Qingyun, the two of us are irreconcilable. Changyang Zhu Xiao was furious. He charged over from afar with bloodshot eyes and killing intent. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao was his great-grandson and the pride of the Zhu branch. Changyang Zhu Xiao's fury had reached its limit when he saw Changyang Qingyun injure Yunxiao right in front of him. Changyang Zhu Xiao's presence skyrocketed, reaching a peak very soon. He was about to use the founding divine fist. Changyang Qingyun glared at Changyang Zhu Xiao and yelled out, "Changyang Zhu Xiao, your Zhu branch has the founding divine fist, while my Qing branch has the spring wind and rain. If we really fight, we'll only drag down our clansmen. Do you want to become the eternal sinner of Changyang Prefecture?" Changyang Qingyun was filled with fear. He could ignore Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's founding divine fist, but he needed to take it seriously if Changyang Zhu Xiao used the same battle skill. The light in Changyang Zhu Xiao's eyes flickered. After a moment of hesitation, he gave up on the idea of using the founding divine fist. Chapter 1175. Changyang Yuan Zhenghua was not as powerful as Jianqin, but Changyang Yuan Wuji had reached the 8th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, making him the 3rd strongest expert in Changyang Prefecture. His strength completely surpassed Jianqin's. Every single strike from him possessed enough power to split mountains, and he would use ancient secret techniques from time to time as well, exhausting Jianqin and forcing him into a disadvantageous position. Almost all of Jianqin's heavy wounds came from Changyang Yuan Wuji, but the toughness of his chaotic body granted him great vitality and battle prowess. Even though he was heavily injured, Jianqin's battle prowess did not decrease by much. However, even with that being the case, he was unable to last for very long. Bang! With a muffled sound, Changyang Yuan Wuji's palm strike landed on Jianqin's chest, knocking him far away. The palm strike was very powerful, sending Jianqin several thousand meters away. He only stopped after smashing through a mountain. His entire chest had caved in, and several of his ribs had been broken. Jianqin gritted his teeth as chaotic force rapidly circulated through his body. He healed his wounds as quickly as possible. Even though he had already used his full strength, his rate of recovery was nowhere near as fast as his wounds. Jianqin glanced around and saw that Changyang Zhu Xiao and Changyang Qingyun were still fighting in the distance. Surging ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, causing the mountains to tremble. Changyang Zuyun Xiao had stopped moving after being blown away by Changyang Qinyan's palm strike. Jianqin's face became extremely sunken. He was at a complete disadvantage right now. He could fight a holy emperor at the 7th heavenly layer alone, but he was powerless against Changyang Yuanwuji, who was at the 8th heavenly layer of the holy emperor. At the same time, Changyang Yuanwuji was a great elder of a protector clan. He possessed many powerful battle skills and ancient secret techniques, so his battle prowess was incomparable to regular holy emperors outside. The independent space had been sealed up as well. It was impossible to open it without the corresponding technique, so he was trapped there and could not leave. Violent ripples of energy appeared up ahead as Changyang Yuanwuji aggressively flew over from afar. He glared at Jianqin as if he was afraid that Jianqin would run away. Greed filled his eyes at all. Right now, Qin Yin is being kept busy by Zhu Xiao, so this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for me. As long as I get the saint's fruit, I'll consume it immediately and they won't be able to do anything to me. They can only watch on the side. Ha ha ha! I'll be able to reach the level of Holy Emperor very soon and become the strongest. I'll become the strongest of the 10 protector clans. Changyang Yuanwuji roared inside. He seemed to be able to see the moment when he became the Holy Emperor. He was tempted to roar at the sky as he suppressed his excitement and madness. However, this brat's talent is very great. He'll probably become a Saint Emperor himself in just a few years. He's a great threat to me. Since I've already offended him today, I might as well go all the way and kill him. Heavy killing intent immediately appeared in Changyang Yuanwuji's eyes when he reached there. He wanted to take the saint's fruit as well as kill Jianqin. A silver-white spear, completely condensed from energy, appeared in Changyang Yuanwuji's hand. As the spear condensed, a powerful pressure appeared in the surroundings, crushing down on Jianqin like a mountain. It made Jianqin's body sink as his movements became obstructed. This was the pressure from a saint-tier battle skill. Changyang Yuanwuji casually used it before shooting through the air as a white streak of light, shooting toward Jianqin with lightning-like speed. Jianqin was stern. With a thought, the saint artifact immediately turned into a 10-meter-tall golden tower in front of him, blocking the saint-tier battle skill for him. At the same time, there was a flash of golden light. A 3-meter-tall, extremely burly man silently appeared beside Jianqin. He seemed like a small giant. His skin was faintly golden, and he seemed to radiate with a golden glow. This person was Tai Ta, who had always remained in the artifact space. Tai Ta had received Jianqin's secret warning long ago, so he knew that the situation outside was very dangerous. As soon as he emerged from the artifact space, a dense layer of golden light revolved around him. He then called out, "Mysteries of War, Fist of World, collapse!" Thick golden light gathered on Tai Ta's fist. At this moment, there was a strange power circulating on his fist, and then he punched the air in front of him. Hum! A strange hum rang out. Tai Ta's punch actually produced an extremely strange sound, as if space itself was crying out in pain. The space there shook violently with Tai Ta's punch, vaguely showing signs of being ripped apart. The 18 divine halls in the sky became even clearer than before. Every single one of them radiated with a strand of energy that fused with the space there, causing the space that was much tougher than the outside world to become even sturdier. It was like an indestructible prison. The shaking space stabilized very quickly. Tai Ta's face immediately changed when he saw this. He said, "Jianqin, I can't break through the space here." "What?" Jianqin was surprised. He said, "Tai Ta, didn't you say that your mysteries of war can break through all spatial restraints, allowing you to travel through other spaces and go wherever you want?" Tai Ta scratched his head in a rather anxious manner. He said, rather timidly, "That's what I heard. My Fist of World can indeed break through all spatial restraints, but I never thought that this space would be so tough. Even my fist of world is useless. Looks like I'm still too weak. My comprehension of the fist of world isn't deep enough. God damn it. Jianqin cursed in his heart. Truly, plans could not keep up with changes. He had never thought that something like this would happen. At this moment, it was already dark outside. A full moon hung high in the sky, radiating with pure moonlight. A silver-white, divine hull silently descended from outer space. In the end, it hovered above the space where the Protector clan, Changyang Prefecture, resided. Yu stood gracefully on the roof of the divine hall in a white dress. She held the moon god scepter that Fairy Haoyue had given her. Suddenly, Simi Yu raised the moon god scepter up high. The gem embedded in the moon god scepter immediately emitted a dense moonlight. At the same time, the full moon in the sky suddenly shone brightly. It actually gave off an unprecedentedly powerful moonlight, as if it was resonating with the scepter in Yu's hand. The two of them seemed to be resonating with each other from afar. I never thought that you'd actually have helpers, but in my Protector clan, it's useless even if you invite a holy emperor at great perfection. Changyang Yuanwuji sneered in Changyang Prefecture. The energy around him surged as he directly charged toward Jianqin. Tai Ta's eyes turned cold. A golden axe appeared in his hand as he yelled out, "Mysteries of war, destruction!" A supreme battle intent suddenly appeared. It could affect the minds of everyone present, instantly shattering the courage and morale of all the spectating people from Changyang Prefecture. Many people from Changyang Prefecture shivered under the impact of the battle intent. Their gazes toward Tai Ta were filled with fear. At that moment, Tai Ta seemed to have become an undefeatable war god in their eyes. Even saint rulers had lost the courage to fight before him. An extremely dazzling streak of golden light shot through the sky, striking toward Changyang Yuanwuji with a thunderous momentum as the supreme battle intent radiated from him. Changyang Yuanwuji became stunned. The battle intent that had suddenly appeared had affected him slightly, but he could completely suppress it with his strength, so he returned to normal very soon. He looked at the golden axe and wanted to dodge, but he discovered that his presence had been locked onto, making it impossible for him to dodge. He hurriedly used an ancient secret technique to block Tai Ta's attack, but the great force within the axe knocked Changyang Yuanwuji far away. What is this presence? In the distance, Changyang Qingyun and Changyang Zhu Shao stopped fighting. They both stared at Tai Ta in surprise and doubt. The mysteries of war, destruction. Isn't this the powerful battle skill used by the war god of the 100 races, Arages? The ancient records say that Rui Jin used the mysteries of war to shatter a small portion of the Tianyuan continent with a single swing of his axe. Over 10 Holy Emperor experts died to the technique. Changyang Qingyun blanked out as disbelief filled his face. Changyang Zhu Shao stared at Tai Ta from afar. He murmured, "He's covered in golden light, and he can even radiate with such a unique battle intent. This person is the war god of the 100 races. No wonder so many experts from the 100 races invaded our Tianyuan continent. This has never happened before. So it's all related to the war god," Changyang Qingyun suddenly exclaimed. Changyang Qingyun suddenly cried out. He immediately guessed Tai Ta's identity and felt both surprise and fear. Even with his mental fortitude, he struggled to remain calm. The war god of the 100 races was just far too renowned, so great that even Holy Emperor experts would pale when they heard his name. After all, he was a sovereign who had surpassed the Holy Emperor's level of cultivation, who knew just how many Holy Emperor experts had died to his hands in ancient times. Only experts at the same level of cultivation could fight him. However, Changyang Qingyun could tell that Tai Ta was not powerful very soon, so he immediately calmed down. Heavy killing intent began to radiate from him without any concealment. He said, "Zhu Shao, the war god of the 100 races, has appeared again. Although you and I did not take part in the matters of the ancient times, we still understand it very well from the records that have been passed down. You should know what to do now." Changyang Zhu Shao furrowed his brows tightly as he stared at Taita. The light in his eyes flickered. "Kill the war god of the 100 races immediately before he fully matures and get rid of any future problems. Otherwise, our Tianyuan continent will be doomed. The tragedy of the ancient times will repeat itself, and this time we don't have an expert like Mo Tianyan to stop him. Zhu Shao, let's put aside our disagreements from before and kill the war god together," Changyang Qingyan coldly said. With that, he charged toward Taita first. Boom! Chapter 1176. Changyang Qingyan's charge toward Taita also came to a halt with the sudden sound. He stared at the sky in some shock as an indescribable shock appeared on his face. The sound alarmed the entire Changyang prefecture, whether it was the people from the inner or outer regions. At that moment, all of them raised their heads to look at the sky. Many people had no idea what was happening. All they saw was that the space in the sky violently shook and distorted. It was vaguely possible to see droplets of bright and gentle white light, as if they were trying their best to tear through space and enter. The 18 divine hall phantoms in the surroundings completely manifested at this moment. They turned into 18 true divine halls that hovered in the surroundings, stabilizing the space. Vast and boundless energy surged out of each divine hall, mixed with the profound truths of space. This is an invasion. 18 elders, enter the divine halls and stabilize this space. We can't let the enemy invade Changyang Prefecture, Changyang Qingyan ordered in a solemn voice. Changyang Qingyan ordered with a sunken face. He was extremely stern. The internal strife of the Changyang clan had yet to subside, yet the enemy had already invaded. If they could not stop them, the Changyang clan would definitely pay a heavy price. 18 elders immediately charged into the sky at the same time from the crowd. They each flew toward a divine hall in an attempt to enter the divine halls and unleash the full power of the formations. However, just when the 18 of them had reached the air, the space in Changyang Prefecture violently shook again. The space in the sky was ripped open, and a large swathe of bright moonlight filled the sky, illuminating the entire Changyang Prefecture. It dyed Changyang Prefecture into a silvery white world. "Enter the divine halls," someone called out from the sky. The 18 elders immediately stopped hesitating. They ignored the phenomenon in the sky and entered the divine halls as quickly as they could. Immediately, every single divine hall began to shine with extremely dazzling light. The divine halls formed a great formation, radiating with even more powerful energy and the truths of space to stabilize the region. At the same time, the spatial crack in the sky rapidly closed up as well. At this moment, a huge divine hall that shone with a silvery white light descended from the sky. It just happened to be stuck in the spatial crack, preventing it from closing up. Isn't that Fairy Haoyue's bright moon divine hall? Changyang Qing Yun cried out in surprise. It's actually the bright moon divine hall. Changyang Zhu Shao also stared at the divine hall in the sky in surprise. For a moment, Changyang Yuanwuji had forgotten about Jianqin and Taita. He stared at the divine hall in a daze. He had not returned to his senses at all. At this time, the tightly shut door of the bright moon divine hall suddenly opened. Dressed in a long white dress and holding the moon god scepter, Sima Yu appeared at the door. A hazy ray of moonlight shone down from the beam of the door, forming a light screen that protected Sima Yu. Yu's alluring face was filled with worry. Her face was filled with undisguised anxiety. She stood in the divine hall with the moon god's scepter in her hand as she constantly glanced around. She found Jianqin very soon, but when she saw that Jianqin was covered in wounds and blood, her heart shattered. Tears began to flow uncontrollably. "Jianqin!" You produced a heart-wrenching cry. She wanted to fly down to save Jianqin regardless of the consequences, but she was stopped by the barrier of light. She was unable to take a single step out of the divine hall. Jianqin discovered Yu as well. He immediately became stunned. He had never thought that Yu would actually find him at a time like this. Jianqin, come up quick! Yu cried out in a panic with tears in her eyes. Jianqin glanced at Yu with extremely mixed feelings. He wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth with his sleeve, and with a thought, the saint artifact immediately flew into his hand. He then turned around and flew toward a mountain in the distance with the saint artifact. Very soon, Jianqin flew over with the heavily injured Changyang Zhuyin. He called out to Tai Ta, and the two of them flew toward the divine hall in the sky. Don't even think about leaving so easily. Changyang Yin roared out. He could not let go of Jianqin's saint's fruit or Tai Ta's identity as the war god. A terrifying pressure suddenly appeared. Changyang Yin immediately used a saint-tier battle skill with a strength at great perfection as a holy emperor in an attempt to keep Jianqin and Tai Ta behind. Yu's gaze toward Changyang Yin was filled with intense hatred. She extended the scepter, and a fist-thick strand of moonlight shot out from the gem on the scepter, shooting toward Changyang Yin at an unbelievable speed. Changyang Yin had just finished charging his saint-tier battle skill, but before he could use it, he sensed the strand of moonlight in the sky. As a result, he immediately changed the direction of the battle skill toward Jianqin and Tai Ta. With a boom, Changyang Yin's saint-tier battle skill was actually shattered by the inconspicuous strand of moonlight. The fist-thick strand of moonlight continued toward Changyang Yin without slowing down at all. Boom! The moonlight struck Changyang Yin's chest, causing him to vomit a large mouthful of blood. He struggled to maintain his levitation in the air, so he directly fell out of the sky. The Holy Emperor. This is the Holy Emperor's power. Changyang Yin regained control of his body very quickly. He hovered in the air as he stared at Yu, who stood at the entrance of the divine hall with a pale face. His face was filled with shock and disbelief. Jianqin had already approached the divine hall with the heavily injured Changyang, Zhuyin and Tai Ta. They passed through the barrier of light without any obstructions and entered the divine hall. Yu finally calmed down when she saw that Jianqin had finally entered the divine hall. She glared at the people below before turning around and disappearing through the door. Bang! The door of the divine hall closed once again, and the huge divine hall began to gently tremble. Strands of pure moonlight force radiated from the divine hall, widening the closed spatial crack in an attempt to leave. Chapter 1177. In the forbidden grounds of the back mountains of Changyang Prefecture, the formation had already been ripped open. A huge sword slowly rose into the air as it shone with a dazzling light. It radiated with a supreme sword chi that was enough to make the world tremble. Around a dozen saint-ruler old men sat below the sword. All of them were pale and exhausted. They had used a secret technique to awaken the Emperor armament, so all of them were extremely exhausted. Fantastic! The Emperor armament has finally been awakened. I'd like to see how the bright moon divine hall can retreat now. Changyang Yin was overjoyed. It's the Emperor armament of the clan. Fantastic! The Emperor armament has finally appeared. The Emperor armament of our protector clan is unimaginably powerful. Is there anyone in the world who can contend against the Emperor armament? The invading divine hall is nothing before the Emperor armament. Changyang Prefecture immediately fell into an uproar with the appearance of the Emperor armament. Many of the core members of Changyang Prefecture knew about the legends of the Emperor armament, so they obviously worshipped it blindly. They believed that the Emperor armament of the Protector clan was the greatest god artifact in the world. Suddenly, the Emperor armament gently trembled, and a sword chi much more powerful than before shot out. With that tremble, many fine cracks immediately appeared in the space of Changyang Prefecture that was much more stable than the outside world. The Emperor armament turned into a resplendent streak of light and stabbed toward the bright moon divine hall with unbelievable speed. In just a single moment, it had closed in on the bright moon divine hall, as if it had teleported. Boom! With a deafening boom, the Emperor armament struck the bright moon divine hall with lightning-like speed. The great shock wave from the collision was so great that many people temporarily lost their hearing. Their heads buzzed as terrifying ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the sky like a violent storm. The floating piece of land in the center of Changyang Prefecture shook violently from the shock wave. Many buildings collapsed and the surroundings were reduced to a mess. However, no one paid any attention to the destroyed buildings at this moment. Everyone stared at the Emperor armament and the bright moon divine hall in the sky. The bright moon divine hall continued to hover steadily in the sky. Its pure white and majestic structure was not damaged at all. Not even a single mark could be seen on it. The bright moon divine hall was actually unscathed after receiving an attack from the Emperor armament. This is impossible. Changyang Qingyin stared at the scene in the sky in shock. Disbelief filled his face. He was unable to accept the reality before him. Changyang Zhu Shao became stunned as well. He murmured, "The Emperor armament may have been awakened through a secret technique, so it's unable to unleash its full power without anyone controlling it, but it's still enough to easily destroy any divine hall. How can the bright moon divine hall remain unscathed after receiving an attack from the Emperor armament? Even if it's forged from special materials from the moon, it's impossible for it to be so tough." Changyang Qingyin and Changyang Zhu Shao were not the only ones who were stunned. All the clansmen in Changyang Prefecture who knew about the might of the Emperor armament were stunned by the unbelievable scene before them. Thrum! The Emperor armament in the sky produced a clear thrum before continuing toward the bright moon divine hall with great power. With a boom, the result was the same as before. The bright moon divine hall was completely unscathed after receiving the attack from the Emperor armament. The Emperor armament of the Protector clans was unable to leave a single mark on the pure white divine hall. The bright moon divine hall was enveloped by a layer of pure moonlight. The pure and powerful moonlight force slowly expanded the cracks in the surroundings before slowly rising into the air. It completely ignored the Emperor armament. The war god of the 100 races is in the bright moon divine hall. We can't let the bright moon divine hall leave. Great elders, we need to control the Emperor armament, or once the war god leaves, the consequences will be unthinkable, Changyang Qingyin called out. Right now, the Emperor armament had only been awakened to attack on its own, so the power it could unleash was limited without anyone controlling it. It was nowhere near as powerful as when it was controlled by someone other than Changyang Zhu Shao. The other great elders of Changyang Prefecture all charged toward the Emperor armament. Even Changyang Qingyin Feng, who had been heavily injured by Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's founding god's fist, joined in as well. The bright moon divine hall had left the independent space of Changyang Prefecture and was in the outside world. The spatial crack had finally closed up completely, hiding the people of Changyang Prefecture in another space. However, in the next moment, the world gate of Changyang Prefecture swung wide open. The 5 great elders aggressively flew out with the Emperor armament, directly flying toward the bright moon divine hall. Under the control of the 5 of them, the Emperor armament radiated with an even greater presence than before. The door to the bright moon divine hall swung open once again, and you appeared with the moon god scepter. Her face was filled with fury as she aimed the scepter at the incoming Emperor armament. Immediately, silver-white moonlight force surged out. Chapter 1178. Fairy Haoyue appeared to stop you use impulsive actions. Afterward, an invisible force surged out of the divine hall, enveloping you as she disappeared through the main entrance. The doors of the divine hall closed once again. The control of the bright moon divine hall was still in Fairy Haoyue's hands. You had only obtained a portion of the divine hall's power through Fairy Halyue's special permission. Yu is still unable to control the Divine Hall completely. Up ahead, the Emperor armament radiated with a surging presence under the control of the 5 great elders of Changyang Prefecture. It aggressively stabbed toward the Divine Hall. The space outside was nowhere near as tough as the space within the Protector clan. Wherever the Emperor armament passed by, space would be ripped apart like paper, creating a huge, black chasm in the air. At this moment, a golden sword chi over 10 meters long shot over from behind. The sword chi was like a streak of light, shining with a dazzling and resplendent light. It dyed the pitch-black sky into a golden world. A huge phoenix, completely condensed from white flames, soared beside the golden sword chi. With crisp phoenix cries, it flew alongside the golden sword chi, passing through the bright moon divine hall with lightning-like speed to receive the emperor armament of the Changyang clan. Boom! The golden sword chi and the divine phoenix, condensed from white flames, violently collided with the emperor armament. An extremely powerful ripple of energy erupted, causing the space in a radius of 100 meters to collapse. It was plunged into eternal darkness. The violent ripple of energy wreaked havoc downwards, causing countless mountains to collapse. The ground violently shook as huge cracks appeared, extending to a range of 1,000 kilometers. Fortunately, the Changyang Prefecture resided in an ancient mountain range that was sparsely populated. Only a few magical beasts lived there, and very few people set foot there. Otherwise, just the ripple of energy from the clash would have been enough to flatten a large city, turning it into hell. The emperor armament of Changyang Prefecture was blocked. The powerful ripple of energy turned into a storm that struck the emperor armament and the 5 great elders controlling it. It slowed down their charge and forcefully suppressed it. The golden sword chi and the phoenix that had collided with the emperor armament dispersed as well. They were replaced by a shining sword and a fire-red hairpin with extremely delicate craftsmanship. The presence of origin energy. It's an origin energy weapon that contains origin energy. The 5 great elders' expressions changed slightly as they furrowed their brows. It's the 3 powerful magical beasts. I never thought that they would actually make it here at such a crucial moment, Changyang Yunfeng said with a heavy voice. Changyang Qing, Yunfeng growled. His face was extremely ugly. All of them feared the 3 of them very much because they were powerful people that even Saint Emperors could not deal with. A golden and red streak of light shot through the pitch-black sky like a comet. They hurried over from afar with extreme speed. They were still on the horizon a moment ago, but they had arrived in front of the bright moon divine hall in the next moment, facing the 5 great elders. They were Ruijin and Honglian. The miniature world of the Protector clan really is mysterious. It can actually cut off all presences and senses, making it impossible for my Dragon clan's secret technique to find them. If it weren't for the fact that the battle that had just erupted had alarmed us, we probably wouldn't have been able to find this place. Ruijin gripped the sacred dragon's sword as he emotionlessly stared at the 5 of them. His eyes were cold. The scorching godfire hairpin returned to Honglian's hand as well. Honglian played around with the origin energy weapon in her hand as she glanced at the bright moon divine hall behind her. She said, "The temptation of the saint's fruit is indeed enough to drive people crazy. Looks like they've already chosen to become enemies with Jianqin for the fruit. This is an internal matter of our Protector clan, so I hope you won't interfere. You may have origin energy weapons, but the emperor armament left behind by our ancestor is far more powerful than you can imagine," Changyang Qingyin sternly said. He was unwilling to provoke Ruijin's group so easily. Ruijin sneered. "Then I wonder if your Protector clan's emperor armament is more powerful, or if my Dragon clan's sacred dragon sword is more powerful. There's also the scorching godfire hairpin of my Phoenix clan," Honglian added. The 2 of them showed no fear at all before the emperor armament. "Do you really plan on interfering with other people's business?" Changyang Qingyun's face paled. The emperor armament of the Protector clan was very powerful, but controlling it was just far too difficult. If they could only control it for a short period of time, they would be fine. However, if they controlled it for too long, they would suffer a backlash from the emperor armament. The price was just far too great. At this moment, another black figure flew over from afar. He arrived before Ruijin and Honglian and stood beside them. He was the black-robed Black Fish. Black Fish seemed to be in a very bad condition right now. Blood constantly flowed from the corner of his mouth, and the black, poisonous blood had already covered his chest. His skin had become completely black, and the poison within him had become even more severe. However, Blackfish's presence did not weaken at all. He stood there aggressively with his machete in hand. His gaze was sharp as battle intent surged from him. He seemed like he would clash with his weapon at any moment. Suddenly, Changyang Qingyun and the others gently trembled. They had been controlling the Emperor armament for quite some time now, so the supreme power of the Emperor armament was slowly beginning to backfire. Changyang Qingyun coldly stared at the bright moon divine hall for a while. He knew that if this stalemate continued, they would be the ones to suffer. After a moment of hesitation, he finally made up his mind. He reluctantly gave the order to retreat. "Let's go back!" The world gate to Changyang Prefecture opened once again. Changyang Qingyun and the 5 great elders returned to the clan with the Emperor armament. At the same time, the bright moon divine hall shot off as a silver-white streak of light, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Ruijin, Honglian, and Black Fish followed closely behind. Jessen Kingdom, Lore City. The thick veil of night enveloped the entire city. A bright moon hung high in the sky, casting its hazy moonlight onto the earth. Vaguely, one could see groups of armored soldiers silently patrolling the deathly stillness of Lore City, silently guarding the peace of Lore City. In the Changyang Prefecture of Lore City, there were only a few lanterns that silently emitted their dazzling light. Group after group of burly men moved through various parts of Changyang Prefecture in high spirits. Every single one of them had extremely sharp gazes. Their bright eyes would always sweep past the various dark corners of Changyang Prefecture. They did not feel tired at all. These people were the guards of Changyang Prefecture. The current Changyang Prefecture was no longer the same as before. Even the guards were much stronger than before. There were plenty of Earth Saint Masters, and there were even quite a few Heaven Saint Masters. In the dead of night, most people were still immersed in their sweet dreams. However, at this moment, the surroundings suddenly became abnormally bright. The darkness that had enveloped the entire city completely receded at that moment. The entire city was illuminated in a single moment. The sudden change alarmed all the patrolling guards and the guards of Changyang Prefecture. All of them instinctively raised their heads to look at the sky. They saw a silver-white divine hall slowly descend from the sky with bright moonlight. In the end, it stopped 100 meters above Changyang Prefecture. "What's that? Go inform the city lord." The guards on night patrol saw this scene from afar and were all stunned. They immediately rushed towards the city lord's mansion. Chapter 1179. The silent Changyang Prefecture became brightly lit in a single moment. Figures flickered everywhere as all the guards in Changyang Prefecture surged out of their rooms as soon as possible. Although many of them had been roused from their sleep, they did not seem to be in their sleep at all. They were brimming with energy, and their gazes were sharp. Only 3 seconds had passed since the drums had sounded, yet several hundred figures suddenly appeared in the silent Changyang Prefecture. Many guards radiated with powerful presences as they gathered in the front courtyard of Changyang Prefecture. Before they could even ask what had happened, they all sensed the extremely bright moonlight shining down from the sky. They immediately raised their heads and became momentarily stunned when they saw what was in the sky. A huge divine hall surrounded by a dense layer of moonlight hovered 100 meters above the Changyang clan. It completely obscured the sky above. What's going on? A heavy and dignified voice rang out. Changyangba walked out of his room in luxurious robes. He seemed even more composed than before. However, as soon as he stepped out of the door, Changyangba discovered what was in the sky through the moonlight. He became stunned as well. Soon after, the various important members and high-ranking members of Changyang Prefecture were alarmed. They all emerged from their rooms and stared at the divine hall in the sky in surprise and doubt. This seems to be the bright moon divine hall that you are mentioned. Changyang Ba stared at the divine hall as he softly murmured. He had known that Yu had obtained the divine hall long ago, but he had never seen it with his own eyes. At this moment, the doors to the divine hall opened. Jianqin flew out of the divine hall with the heavily injured Changyang Zhu Yunxiao on his back. Tai Ta and Yu followed closely behind Jianqin with the moon god scepter. Xiang'er, its fourth young master. As soon as Jianqin landed on the ground, he was immediately recognized by the crowd. First, there were low cries of surprise. Then, all the guards around him knelt down on one knee at the same time. Each and every one of them had a look of excitement and worship on their faces as they shouted, "We pay our respects to the fourth young master!" In the blink of an eye, the surroundings were filled with kneeling people. Only a few of Jianqin's elders remained standing. Changyang Ba quickly walked over. Seeing Jianqin covered in blood, he was both shocked and angry. He didn't have time to exchange pleasantries and directly asked, "Xiang'er, what happened to you? Why did you suffer so much? Who hurt you?" Changyang Ba's tone was full of concern, mixed with a little worry. Even with Jianqin's current strength, he had still ended up in such a horrible state. Changyang Ba really had no idea just what kind of powerful enemy his genius son had encountered outside. "Xiang'er," a sobbing voice rang out. Bai Yuntian quickly walked over gracefully. She glanced past the various wounds on Jianqin's body and could not help but tremble. As a mother, her heart had almost shattered when she saw her precious son in such a miserable state. Great-grandfather Yunxiao, WW, Xiang'er, how did great-grandfather Yunxiao end up like this? He's a great elder of a protector clan. Just who on the Tianyuan continent would be bold enough to injure a great elder like him? Xiang'er, what happened? Changyang Ba paled in fright as he hurriedly asked, "Father, mother, let's talk about this tomorrow. I'll take great-grandfather Yunxiao to heal first." Jianqin's heart was rather heavy. With that, he carried the still unconscious Changyang Zhu Yunxiao back to his residence. Yu and Tai Ta left with Jianqin, leaving Changyang Ba and the others standing there with heavy hearts. Aside from the footsteps of Jianqin and the others, there was no other sound. The atmosphere had become extremely heavy. Before long, Ruijin, Blackfish, and Honglian returned to Changyang Prefecture as well. Without saying anything, they all returned to their own residences. The three of them possessed extremely great statuses in Changyang Prefecture, so they all had residences of their own. You did not take back the bright moon divine hall. It continued to hover 100 meters above Changyang Prefecture, just in case something unexpected happened. You had become especially vigilant as well. She was afraid that the experts of the protector clans would attack again, so she used the bright moon divine hall to protect Changyang Prefecture. This night was a heavy one for Changyang Prefecture in Lore City. Everything that had happened to Jianqin had made everyone's hearts heavy. However, this night was a sleepless one for Lore City. The descent of the divine hall had shaken up the entire city very quickly. The deathly silent city quickly became bustling. Even the city lord had personally hurried over from his estate to visit Changyang Prefecture, but he was stopped outside. Early in the morning, in a mountain range hundreds of thousands of kilometers away, a simple wooden house stood silently in a small valley with an elegant environment. It gave off a desolate aura of time. This was a small mountain village that was cut off from the rest of the world. The scenery was beautiful, and the energy of the world was extremely abundant. It had even formed a thin layer of mist in the sky. Various herbs and extremely precious heavenly resources were planted in the surroundings of the mountain village. 1,000-year herbs could be seen everywhere, and 100-year herbs were innumerable. The mountain village was not small. There were several hundred wooden huts and pavilions of various sizes arranged in a circular pattern, but not a single person could be seen. The entire mountain village was deathly silent. In the very center of the mountain village was a hall completely constructed from 10,000-year-old ironwood. Although it was ancient and antiquated, it was filled with an inviolable dignity. There were only a few people sitting in the hall. Among them, the most eye-catching person was a woman wearing a green muslin dress. The woman held a zither in her arms, and her face was covered with a veil. Although her face couldn't be seen clearly, it wasn't difficult to guess her peerless beauty just from her temperament. Opposite her sat 3 old men with sword-like eyebrows. They had extraordinary presences, and the old man in the middle held a sealed brocade box in his hands. Esteemed heavenly enchantress, the Heaven's Heart Lotus you gave us has been successfully refined into a pill with mild medicinal properties. Although this pill is refined from a 10,000-year-old heavenly treasure, even if it is consumed by a normal person, they will be fine. There is no need to worry about the medicinal effects being too strong and exploding. The old man with the brocade box handed it to the heavenly enchantress. His tone was filled with respect and fear. The heavenly enchantress accepted the brocade box and opened it. She saw a thumb-sized mixed yuan pill lying inside silently. It was surrounded by a layer of mist, giving off a heavy fragrance. A sliver of light finally appeared in the heavenly enchantress' indifferent eyes when she saw the pill. She said, "The ancient medicine village really lives up to its name. You've actually managed to refine a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource in such a short amount of time." The ancient medicine village was an ancient organization that had existed for over 100,000 years. It was a first-rate ancient clan that relied on alchemy for a living and medicine for cultivation. They walked an extremely different path of cultivation. Their attainments in alchemy had reached perfection long ago. They had reached the pinnacle of alchemy. However, they had remained in seclusion for many years, so they did not have much of a reputation. Even among the ancient clans, there were not many people who knew about the ancient medicine village. Esteemed heavenly enchantress, we've already fulfilled your request. May I ask how our grand elder's injuries are? An old man asked carefully. He was extremely fearful of the woman before him. The heavenly enchantress stowed the brocade box away and said emotionlessly, "Fortunately, your grand elder's cultivation deviation is not too severe. I've already healed the wounds to his soul with the soothing melody. He'll wake up in 3 days, and he'll make a full recovery after that." The 3 old men rejoiced when they heard that. They all thanked her. "Thank you for saving us, esteemed heavenly enchantress. We will never forget your kindness." The heavenly enchantress left the ancient medicine village with the Heaven's Heart Lotus that had been refined into a pill. After she left, the 3 elders of the ancient medicine village immediately let out a long sigh of relief. When they recalled the scene when the heavenly enchantress first came to the ancient medicine village, the 3 of them still felt lingering fear. Just who is this heavenly enchantress? She's actually so terrifying. With just a flick of her finger, she made everyone in the village fall into a deep sleep. Even saint rulers were unable to escape. Fortunately, she doesn't have any enmity towards us. Otherwise, with the strength she displayed, it would be a piece of cake for her to wipe out our village. Her music is just too terrifying. It affects the soul. Even with the strength of the Holy Emperor, we can't withstand 3 notes from her. Just what level of cultivation does she have to be so powerful? Chapter 1180. The heavenly enchantress did not return to 3 Saint Island immediately after leaving the village. Instead, she ripped open a space gate and arrived in the city of God. the capital of one of the three great empires on the continent, the Holy Emperor's Empire. As one of the 7 capital cities of the continent, the prosperity of the City of God could not be doubted. The streets and alleys were filled with people. It was bustling with activity. Countless experts had gathered there as well. In the center of the City of God, a huge, majestic castle lay there like a slumbering beast. A large number of white-robed, radiant Saint Masters with various badges on their chests moved in and out of the castle. This was the headquarters of the Radiant Saint Master Union, the most sacred place in the hearts of all Radiant Saint Masters on the continent. This was because basically all the Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters on the continent were gathered there. At this moment, the Heavenly Enchantress silently appeared there with her zither and a veil covering her face. She hovered 100 meters in the air as she coldly stared at the aged castle before her with her enchanting eyes. Afterward, a powerful presence radiated from her, flooding the surroundings and enveloping the headquarters. All the experts in the Union were alarmed. Figures flickered outside the castle as several saint rulers arrived as soon as possible. They all glared at the Heavenly Enchantress. Afterward, over a dozen balls of white light flew out from the castle. They were all Radiant Saint Masters in white robes with blue and violet badges on their chests. At the very front was the President and Grand Elder of the Union. Behind them were several Class 7 and 6 Radiant Saint Masters. The President of the Radiant Saint Master Union stared at the Heavenly Enchantress with shining eyes. When he saw who it was, he immediately became surprised. He said in surprise, "Muir, it's actually you!" The Heavenly Enchantress looked at the President's old face, and her cold gaze immediately became rather gentle. There was even a sliver of respect in her eyes. "Greetings to the President." The Heavenly Enchantress nodded slightly with her zither. She actually took the initiative to bow to the President. The President gently smiled. He stared at the Heavenly Enchantress like a senior looking at a junior and said, "This is the first time you've come to our union after so many years. Please come in." The saint rulers immediately relaxed when they heard the President's words. Even their gazes toward the Heavenly Enchantress were no longer filled with hostility. Instead, they studied her in amazement and admiration. Although her face was covered by a veil, it was unable to hide the Heavenly Enchantress beauty. Just by standing there, she gave off an otherworldly presence, as if she was a goddess. "Esteemed President, I've taken the liberty of visiting the Union this time because I hope that the Class 7 Radiant Saint Master of your Union can assist me with something," said the Heavenly Enchantress. "Shangguan Mu, your father is a good friend of our Radiant Saint Master Union. As long as it's within our ability, we'll definitely do our best to help you. May I ask what you need our help with?" asked the Grand Elder. The Heavenly Enchantress' eyes immediately turned cold when she heard the word father. She said, "I'm only asking for your assistance this time. It has nothing to do with Hao Wu. Your union's relationship with him has nothing to do with me." Sigh. The President gently sighed. It's already been so many years. Have you still not forgiven your father?" "Don't mention that person to me," the Heavenly Enchantress coldly replied. Uncontainable anger radiated from her. The President and Grand Elder looked at each other and shook their heads helplessly. They sighed inside. From the Heavenly Enchantress' reaction, they could tell that her hatred for her father was still extremely deep. A while later, the Heavenly Enchantress calmed down. "President, I want to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master to 3 Saint Island." The President of the Radiant Saint Master Union remained silent for a while before deeply gazing at the Heavenly Enchantress. He said, Something big has happened on the Tianyuan continent 2 days ago. Many Saint Kings have been heavily injured, so the Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters of our Union have been invited by the various ancient clans and protector clans to heal. Only 3 of us remain in the Union right now, yet you want to take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master to 3 Saint Island, which is so far away from the Tianyuan continent. When we're in such a dire situation, you've really troubled us. Of course, your father is a good friend of our union. If your father personally comes, we'll definitely agree to your request without any hesitation. Esteemed President, you saved my life in the past, and I am extremely grateful for that. However, I must take a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master back to 3 Saint Island today, no matter what. I hope the President can agree, the Heavenly Enchantress sincerely said. She was doing all of this for Xiaobao. The energy hidden within a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource was just too tremendous. Although the Heaven's Heart Lotus had been refined into a pill with mild effects, Xiaobao was still young after all. She did not dare to take the risk, so she needed to come up with a perfect plan to prevent any accidents from happening when Xiaobao consumed the Heaven's Heart Lotus. A hunchbacked figure flew out of the castle. He was an old man with a face covered in wrinkles. He wore plain clothes and seemed like nothing special, but he was the only Holy Emperor expert in the Union. Shangguan Mu, it's best if you go back and get your father. Otherwise, it's impossible for you to get a respected Class 7 Radiant Saint Master to go to 3 Saint Island with you, the hunchbacked old man said powerlessly. The Heavenly Enchantress stared at the old man without blinking. Her voice became rather cold as well. Elder Jia, if I insist on taking a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master away, no one in the Union can stop me. However, the President once saved my life, so I don't want to make a fuss like this. Chapter 1181. The Heavenly Enchantress could not help but smile in disdain when she heard how confident Elder Jia was. She said, Elder Jia, I wonder if you're willing to try and see if my zither can threaten a supreme expert like the Holy Emperor. The Heavenly Enchantress was only grateful to the President of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Even though Elder Jia possessed a great status in the Union, he did not receive any respect from the Heavenly Enchantress. Elder Jia flew forward, and his entire aura suddenly underwent a tremendous change. At this moment, his originally hunchbacked body suddenly became tall and straight, and a strong sense of self-confidence flowed out from his body. The plain clothes on his body also fluttered in the absence of wind, making him look majestic. Elder Jia crossed his arms and stood proudly in the void. His pair of old eyes shot out a bright light. Compared to the previous ordinary-looking old man, he was like a completely different person. Shangguan Mu, make your move. Let old man see how powerful your demonic zither sound is. He did not see through the Heavenly Enchantress' strength, but he had heard of her legends, so he still treated her as a hermit saint ruler. Furthermore, at this moment, from the Guqin Saint, although the Heavenly Enchantress's aura was powerful, it was only at the level of a saint ruler. This was not enough to enter the eyes of Elder Jia, who was at the 4th heaven of the Holy Emperor. Elder Jia, I'm sorry for offending you. The Heavenly Enchantress spoke with a slightly cold tone. She gently placed her slender fingers on the strings of the zither and plucked a string with one of her slender fingers. Ding! A crisp sound of a zither rang out. The sound of the zither didn't travel very far. It only spread out for a distance of 100 meters before dissipating into thin air. The President, Grand Elder, and the group of saint rulers behind them all focused. They were on guard against the Heavenly Enchantress demonic music that could control people's souls. Things that could affect the soul were the most difficult to guard against. The only method was to use the strength of the soul to resist them. As a result, they still did not dare to lower their guard, even though they were not the ones facing the Heavenly Enchantress. However, the Heavenly Enchantress did not do anything else after plucking the first string. There was no demonic sound that could affect the soul of a saint ruler like everyone had imagined. The crisp sound of the zither did not cause them any discomfort either. However, at this moment, no one noticed that Elder Jia, who was standing in front of them, had become dull. His eyes were empty, and there was no light in them. They had completely lost the color that they were supposed to have. Then, Elder Jia's body swayed slightly, and under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, he fell from the sky. His pair of lifeless old eyes slowly closed. Elder Jia! Elder Jia! With a series of cries, a few saint rulers immediately charged toward Elder Jia. They caught him just as he was about to hit the ground. Elder Jia, are you all right? The saint rulers surrounded Elder Jia as they called out worriedly. The president and grand elder became stern as well. They immediately descended from the sky and arrived beside Elder Jia. After checking Elder Jia's body, they discovered that he was fine. He was not injured at all. What did you do to Elder Jia? The president raised his head and looked at the heavenly enchantress. He asked with a slightly trembling voice. He struggled to believe what had just happened. President, Elder Jia is fine. He'll wake up very soon, said the heavenly enchantress. The president finally let out a sigh of relief when he heard that. He stared at the heavenly enchantress in the sky in fright as his heart churned. Elder Jia was a mighty holy emperor who had reached the 4th heavenly layer. Yet he was actually so weak before the heavenly enchantress. Just a single note from the zither had knocked him out. He found this unbelievable. Even though it had happened right before him, he still struggled to accept it. At that moment, whether it was the president, the grand elder, or the saint rulers, all their gazes toward the heavenly enchantress changed drastically. It had changed. A supreme expert at the 4th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor was actually so weak before the heavenly enchantress. All of them had witnessed just how terrifying the heavenly enchantress was. Elder Jia slowly opened his eyes. They were filled with confusion, but they cleared up in the blink of an eye. He soon realized that he was lying on the ground and immediately became surprised. He immediately stood up and stared at the heavenly enchantress in the sky in disbelief. His heart, which had remained calm for countless years, began to thump uncontrollably. Elder Jia, are you fine? The president asked in concern. Elder Jia was the only holy emperor in the Union, so his existence was extremely important to them. Elder Jia did not seem to hear the president's voice. He only stared blankly at the heavenly enchantress in the sky. He could not help but think about what had just happened. When the crisp sound of the zither fell into the ears of others, they did not feel any discomfort. However, when Elder Jia heard the sound of the zither, it was as if there was a huge magic that affected him, causing his primordial spirit to become drowsy. Soon he fell into a deep sleep. Even with his powerful primordial spirit, he could not resist. Elder Jia, you've lost! The heavenly enchantress coldly stared at Elder Jia with her enchanting eyes as she calmly said. It was as if just a single zither note had made Elder Jia, who was at the 4th heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor, fall asleep. It was a very normal matter to her. Sigh. Elder Jia let out a long sigh. His body became hunched once again, returning to his previous hunchback. He said in a rather dejected manner, I've lost. The power of the heavenly enchantress zither note really is terrifying. Even old man cannot compare. The president, grand elder, and the other radiant saint masters and saint rulers all fell silent. A 4th heavenly layer saint king had been defeated just like that. He had been defeated so miserably and in such a horrible manner. He did not even have the chance to fight back. Esteemed President, I hope you can agree to my request and allow me to bring a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master back to 3 Saint Island. I will definitely bring him back safely before long. The heavenly enchantress tone changed. She said to the president extremely politely, Sigh. The president let out a long sigh. He stared at the heavenly enchantress with mixed feelings and said, After not seeing you for so many years, I never thought you'd become so powerful. This has completely exceeded my expectations. With the strength you've displayed, there really isn't anything our union can do to stop you. Whatever. Let me go back to 3 Saint Island with you. No, President, the union still needs you to guard it. You can't leave. Let me go, said the grand elder. No, President, Grand Elder, the two of you are extremely important to Radiant Saint Masters. You definitely can't leave the Union right now. Let me go to 3 Saint Island. Aside from the President and Grand Elder, the only Class 7, Radiant Saint Master present spoke out. His voice was extremely determined. After a moment of thought, the President said, "All right then. The 6th Elder will go to 3 Saint Island with Mu-er." The President raised his head and stared at the Heavenly Enchantress. He said, "Mu-er, you have to ensure the 6th Elder's safety along the way." The Heavenly Enchantress nodded before gently moving her slender finger. She ripped open a space gate and left the City of God with the 6th Elder. 3 Saint Island. The Heavenly Enchantress, Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, Qin Qin, and the white-robed 6th Elder gathered in a cave filled with luminous pearls. They all stared at a chubby boy before them. The little boy was very young, only about 2 or 3 years old. He looked very cute. At this moment, his small mouth was bulging high, and he was trying his best to chew a thumb-sized pill in his mouth. A trace of saliva flowed down from the corner of his mouth. Chapter 1182. The pill refined from the heaven's heart, Lotus finally, turned into a liquid in Xiao Bao's mouth and flowed into his stomach. Immediately, a gentle but tremendous energy erupted from Xiao Bao's body, flowing into his limbs and bones, filling up his entire body. The Heavenly Enchantress, the 6th Elder of the Radiant Saint Master Union, Xiao Qian, Xiao Yu, and Qin Qin all stared at Xiao Bao. When the pill turned into tremendous energy and filled Xiao Bao's body, Xiao Qian immediately said, "Xiao Bao, quick! Use the method Sister Xiao Qian taught you. Use your mind to circulate the energy in your body." Xiao Bao obediently replied before immediately sitting down. He placed his hands on his knees and closed his eyes in desire. He silently controlled the energy in his body according to the method Sister Xiao Qian had taught him. But soon, a layer of fine sweat appeared on Xiao Bao's forehead, and his expression became somewhat unnatural. He could clearly feel the surging energy in his body, but Xiao Bao, who had yet to step into the path of cultivation, couldn't use his mind to control this vast and gentle energy to do as he wished. Even his ability to control energy with his mind was still at the stage where he didn't fully understand it. The 6th Elder also stared at Xiao Bao closely. He knew what his duty was in coming to 3 Saint Island. The Heavenly Enchantress had personally come to the Radiant Saint Master Union and forcefully brought a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master, to 3 Saint Island to prevent anything from happening to the boy while he consumed the heavenly resource. Most importantly, the effects of the 10,000-year-old heavenly resource had become extremely mild after being refined. Even ordinary people would not have any problems ingesting it, but the Heavenly Enchantress still called for a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master out of worry. This was more than enough to demonstrate just how important the boy was to the Heavenly Enchantress. Energy was constantly being produced in Xiao Bao's body. The energy was not under Xiao Bao's control. Instead, it spread to every corner of Xiao Bao's body before slowly fusing with every inch of his flesh and organs. More accurately, it was being absorbed by Xiao Bao's flesh and organs. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed. Xiao Bao had completely absorbed the pill refined from the heaven's heart lotus. There was no longer any energy in Xiao Bao's body. The Heavenly Enchantress, Xiao Qian, and Xiao Yu immediately placed a hand on Xiao Bao's body to sense his condition. A moment later, their expressions changed abruptly. Their faces were filled with disbelief. How is this possible? There's still no saint force in Xiao Bao's body at all. There's not even a pulse of energy, Xiao Qian involuntarily cried out. A 10,000-year-old heavenly resource is enough to change a person who can't cultivate and increase their strength by quite a lot. But Xiao Bao, no, this is impossible, Xiao Yu shook her head. She seemed to be in some pain, as if she refused to accept this. The energy within a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource was unquestionable, but it was like a stone sinking into the ocean when it entered Xiao Bao's body. Qin was stunned by this as well. She murmured, "Even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource can't change Xiao Bao's constitution. Is Xiao Bao's constitution really that useless? He's even more useless than a cripple." The heavenly enchantress stared blankly at Xiao Bao's chubby face with her enchanting eyes. She remained silent for a very long time and became rather dejected. She refused to believe that this would happen. She could not accept this at all. The impact on her heart was much greater than everyone else's. Impossible. It can't be like this. The heavenly enchantress finally spoke after quite a while. She could not help but think about what had happened back then. Only the heavenly enchantress knew about Xiao Bao's true identity. She had not found Xiao Bao on the streets. Instead, he was her child, her very own flesh and blood. Back then, she had only given birth to Xiao Bao after 10 whole years of pregnancy. During those 10 years, her strength had increased at an unbelievable rate. She knew that it was all because of the child in her womb. Aside from the dragon's saliva grass that Jianqin had left behind, the main reason why her strength could reach such an unbelievable level in such a short amount of time was because of Xiao Bao. During the 10 years of pregnancy, the heavenly enchantress knew that the child in her womb was extraordinary. As a matter of fact, when she gave birth to Xiao Bao, she had concluded without any hesitation that Xiao Bao would be an unprecedented prodigy, someone who would even surpass the Holy Emperor in the future. However, she had never thought that this would happen. Not only was Xiao Bao not an unprecedented prodigy, he was even a cripple. Even a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource could not change him. He was even more useless than a cripple. Sigh, what a pitiful Xiao Bao. Xiao Yu sighed helplessly. She felt rather dejected. Xiao Qian fell silent for a while before saying, "Let's not be too pessimistic. Xiao Bao may only be an ordinary person, but ordinary people have their own happiness. They can live without any worries every day, unlike some fighters on the Tianyuan continent who fight to the death for the slightest thing. The end result is just horrible." The heavenly enchantress closed her eyes in some pain. She did not wish for Xiao Bao to be immortal because the lifespan of mortals was only 200 years at most. 200 years was just far too short. She did not dare to imagine her son slowly growing old and dying right before her eyes. The 6th elder stared at Xiao Bao strangely. His brows furrowed tightly as he murmured, "Strange, strange, truly strange." Even a heaven saint master would need quite some time to digest and absorb the energy within a 10,000-year-old heavenly resource. Yet this child has absorbed such a tremendous amount of energy in just 2 days. This doesn't make sense. Xiao Bao's constitution is like that. We fed him quite a few 1,000-year-old and 1,000-year-old heavenly resources in the past. But in less than a day, all of the energy is gone. Other than his body becoming tougher than ordinary people, there's nothing else. Xiao Yu sat on the ground as she sat on her knees. Xiao Bao's physique made her very unhappy. Xiao Bao had a crippled physique, which made her very unhappy. Qin arrived beside the 6th elder with hope in her eyes. She asked, "Esteemed Radiant Saint Master, you're very knowledgeable. May I ask if you have any methods to resolve Xiao Bao's problem?" "I really don't have any methods." The 6th elder shook his head with a bitter smile. This was the first time he had seen a constitution that could not be changed even by 10,000-year-old heavenly resources. On the Tianyuan continent, 10,000-year-old heavenly resources were enough to change a cripple. However, these heavenly resources were just far too rare and precious. Their exorbitant price was not something that ordinary people could accept. Suddenly, the 6th elder seemed to think of something. His eyes suddenly lit up, and he said, "Perhaps only a saint artifact like this can have such a wondrous effect." "What is it?" The heavenly enchantress suddenly snapped open her eyes and stared at the 6th elder in interest.